Hey, Patrick, can you hear us? Yo, hey, Jim, can you hear me? Sound check, sound check. All right.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good, good. Rocking and rolling here a little bit. Starting to roll on. No, I have them right in my programming in my stream deck, so they're already in there. Yeah. So it's not too bad. It's just you know, it's a matter of just hey, what's up, Cathay? Natural 20, good to see you. Good to see you all. Good to see you. Everyone, hopefully you're all well. Hey, Keith, what's up? Here comes Jason.
Hey.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay.
Hey,
how are you guys?
Yep.
Yeah, I cut it a little short, but that's a good point.
Okay. Yeah, we have desert heat here. Well, it's kind of tropical because the humidity is high, so it's kind of really tough out today. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was warmer here today too. It's 81 right now.
Yeah, we have like 95, I think, and 60% humidity.
Tim's gonna probably hang on, not on, like, because he doesn't know much about locations and stuff, and he doesn't want to be embarrassed. I think that was what it was.
Oh, well,
I know. I told him to come on anyway, but you know.
No, but it's not about particular locations. I mean, it was more like settlements in principle.
Right. I told him he should come on and talk about like how he moved his rover stuff and how he adapted it for his. So
exactly, and how to develop settlements and all sorts of stuff.
He may hop on. I have a funny Tim story from last night, but I don't know if he'll get mad if I tell it.
Well, he's not here to stop you.
Yeah, he's not here to stop. Yes, it's funny though.
Oh, he's in chat, so yeah.
Yes. It was definitely funny though. Yep. So we're starting to crank on here.
I don't.
Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say I don't normally open the Twitch window while I'm doing this. So.
But you could probably give it a shot and then just take all, not have a vid on, and that may
you
work.
could pop out the chat.
Pop out the chat,
and then kill off the rest.
That may help you with resources.
Yep. I did that, and it works really well.
Yeah.
There's a little cogwheel down in the chat, and you can take pop out chat, and then it will be a separate window. Then you can kill off just close the video window.
By the way, just letting everyone know, this Thursday is the quarterly Miniature Building Authority giveaway that I do from them being our first sponsor. $75 gift certificate and a $25 gift certificate. So that's a good one to get in on Thursday night's game. Yeah. It's I think probably the biggest one that we give away on a regular basis is $75. Mike, thanks. There's Mike Disney.
Yep.
Looking for it, Mike. I sent today. It finalized. I sent Christine Van Patten and her husband Kyle their characters with the portraits done and everything for Saturday night. This is Saturday night special. I'll shout this out multiple times. This is going to be a big game, but for Saturday night. Yes, someone is being drawn and quartered, Alex. Absolutely, you're on a roll, man, with winnings too. You're like the Casey Brown of winnings right now, which is kind of funny. But Alex, absolutely, it's all
Got
good.
it. Sorry.
Thank you very much for that, Mike. 19-month sub. That's awesome.
Yeah, I renewed my sub today too. It had run out.
Oh yeah. I mean
Yeah.
that what do you call it? The Prime
Prime
is
sub.
always, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
always,
you have to you renew
you have to
it every
manually
month.
do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, no problem, Mike. I love doing it. I'm starting to get on. You know, like I said, this time frame is earlier than normal. The second week we're doing it. We'll see if it works again. It worked very well last week. We'll see if it
Yeah.
works this week again. And so, you know, this is an experiment. So I know the SD experts. We started this time at 7, but that's during Greyhawk Con, and you know, so. But other than that, you know, these are well. I had to ref an entire soccer game today. My son's team is playing, and they're at home, and they're playing another team, and the refs never show up, and it's a half hour late, and so I volunteered. No line judges, nothing. It was just me. I ref the whole game. I'm glad I'm in shape. A year ago, I couldn't do it. Got a nice workout though doing it. So. Walt on, we got Rocks on, a lot of Casey Brown's on lurking. That's scary. Very cool. Wait till you just. So I'm going to show a game. I got a bunch of games stuff that Bill has painted. You're going to see a lot of it being used. Some being used Thursday night, but you're going to see a lot of it on the Saturday night special game that Bill painted up from Gamescape 3D that we just got. He sent us a whole bunch of already printed out stuff, so it was easy for Bill to paint up. So you'll see a lot.
Yeah,
of it.
that's good.
Yeah, it really makes our lives a lot easier. So. It may be there. It may be louder. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. There you go. That was a minor hold button here. I'll turn it down a little bit. I turned it down a lot there. Hey, Alex, can you hear me clearly? Hopefully you can now. What's up, Gitano? So, tonight, locations and references. I pulled out, I'm like, oh, this could be a reference, this could be a reference. And then I realized something, like almost every Greyhawk old school module could be a reference. So, how's it now? Is it better?
Hopefully.
I turned it down. So.
Yep, I heard monsters. Yep. But it wasn't mine. I just found them in Monster Manual. So, yeah.
Better. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Gotta do a set to giveaway. In fact, let me do that. This is very and use my brain here. By the way, I see Hoss has changed. Now it says Zach's APTV Hoss. So now they've changed their names. Oh man, that freaking what do you call it? Stupid bot thing that's giving everyone nightmares. It's annoying. I'm gonna do this while we're not live yet. Boom, that should have worked. Well, we're not. We're on a prelude screen. Yep, good. Look at that, 3 minutes early. Actually, more than that if you consider our half hour. So, and boom. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and I got with me tonight Jason Zavoda again and Anna Meyer.
Hello.
Welcome. We're going to talk more, and this is part 2 of 3 weeks. So this is our second week, going to go Greyhawk campaign development. And last week we concentrated on NPCs and PCs. I think this week we're going to concentrate on the actual locations you can start a campaign or play in, and what reference guides you can utilize to help you. Now, some good things. I just thought about this. This just came to my head. I should have gotten Rich's postcard thing that's being worked on, but we can talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really cool things going on, and there's a lot of old books, well, not newer, but recent books. There's a lot of options. So, by the way, I'm checking on something on another stream. That's why I'm looking back and forth. My apologies there. So. Do you, like, Jason, I know you're going to say the Gordon novels maybe, but, like, what's your go-to, like, just for when you're doing a Greyhawk campaign as far as a book, a guide, to start things off?
Well, I mean, I refer to mainly, like, the folio, even more than the box set, because the folio gives me the little bits and pieces if I'm looking for inspiration. But I've actually been using, I'm doing a project, and I've been using for the last week the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, and it's very handy to have as well. I'm not a person who runs much of the 2E storyline,
right.
Like From the Ashes and Greyhawk Wars are just completely out for me. In fact, my campaign is still in 579 CY, so all that stuff is, as if you follow the continuing timeline, that stuff's, in the future, not really my campaign's future, but so I would say my greatest resource, though, in developing things other than specific locations and such, is the internet. I mean, honestly, I pull it up for all these little things. Now, Gygax was trying from Troll Lord Games back when Gary was alive, and he was trying to come up with a book series that would cover all your needs. And unfortunately, because of various copyright issues, it can't be reprinted. And they've gotten, hugely expensive. So, but the idea behind them was that he had a book of names, Gygax's Extraordinary Book of Names, and then he had a book about towns and thieves, and then he had a book about nation building and world building and cosmo building, and it was supposed to be your one go-to place, but you can still find things that are similar to that. And normally what I look for things to enhance like some basic knowledge, rather than like specifics, like if I look at an area, I really don't want to, that's nation builder.
Yep. And that's
for living fantasy. Yeah.
Yep. I have a couple of other, but these were the ones I found quickly grabbing from the shelf. So
yes.
Well, show them again, Anna. I was looking down. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's
cool.
Nation Builder. And,
I don't have that.
Gary Gygax's Living Fantasy.
Don't have that either.
There's a couple of them. He released I think 6 books, 5, 6 books or something in this series of hardcovers, and they're available as PDFs too, I think. I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Well,
Yeah, I think so.
that
Yeah.
would be nice. That would be nice.
Hmm.
You know, like his one book, The Extraordinary Book of Names, I tend to go to, I always attach some kind of cultural thing to
Right.
a area of, like, Furiandi is like medieval France for me. So if I'm going to go find names for people in Furiandi from any level, I go to a list online that has medieval French names, and then I try to use those. And if I want to do something in Ekber, I look at Persian names. And if I want to do something for the tiger nomads, I go look up Mongol names. So Gygax tried to put that into one book, but actually it's much easier to do that online.
Okay. Well, that's good. They're all brilliant, and over a large time period from first edition to thirds for your stuff. And plus the online availability of things has always been good too. Anna, what about you with this general question?
Well, when I start I usually start to plan my campaign when I'm running one. I'm starting to plan my next, so to speak. See, it goes from a basic idea, like which part of the Greyhawk do I want to dive into next, so to speak. That's the either run a follow-up in the same area, or because my campaigns usually continue for the better part of a decade before they fizzle out due to lack of interest or players moving on or whatever it is. They kind of use they sadly they usually fizzle out after better part of a decade, so to speak, for various reasons. But the what I do is that I get the interest of something. Right now I'm running Shieldlands campaign and done so for a year now, and I plan to ramp it up for my castle D&D in the castle next year that will be set in Shieldlands too. So I'm deep into Shieldlands and developing that area. But now I'm thinking what to start looking into for 5 years in the future, or 4 or 5 years from now, and then I'm starting to first get the sense of what is interesting. And for me, the start of that is these two. Definitely these two, and especially this one, because almost everything that is in here is this one. This one has everything that is in here too, plus a whole bunch of more stuff. So I can recommend, if you don't want to get a reprint, get a PDF out of it, because that way you can search it too, and you can copy and select things and copy and paste into your own notes, and then rewrite it as needed, so to speak. But it's a great way to get a sense of, because I want to get a sense of the situation. And right now I'm in 598, so I'm in a couple of years after this book in my campaign, so to speak. So a few years after.
Well,
and it's like 16 years after the war, so to speak. Yeah.
The good thing about this book is it was edition neutral as well. So
yeah, exactly. It doesn't have no
really
mechanics.
Good.
It's just history and places and factions and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I had a question, Anna and Jason. She's listening to me. That I think really needs to be answered. That a lot of people may not know. A lot of newer players may not know what Jason's all about. So what I want to do is this test. Gaetano, are you there? I know you can handle this. So I'm going to say something, and then Gaetano, can you link the Zavoda Index references for it? How's that sound? So
well, that sounds good.
Yes. So let me think. Let's do. Let's just do IUs. IUZ. Okay. Now, in what? If you have the Zavoda Index, this is what will come up for reference to IUs. And Gaetano's going to link it in chat, and now you're going to see all the references. And this is what Jason's on for the Zavoda Index. What's up, Began? So yeah, IUs. Yeah, IUZ. So very cool. I just wanted to. See what that's all about here. Just so a lot of people I had a couple questions about that. I was like, oh, well, here's, so.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. So Gaetano will be popping that in a second. So, yeah, there are a ton of references to be used. And like I said, I threw a couple key modules that I utilize in there, and as well. And why don't we? We'll pick our own and bounce around, but let's go first. We had a question about one that I don't know the actual answer to, but let's see if we can figure this out here. And that is, oh my gosh, look at that! She's awfully large there. That didn't. There we go. Clean that up a little bit. I just wonder how there's Gazamba. What reference for? Wait a minute. The Sea of Dust. What's your go-to for the Sea of Dust? Now,
Well,
yeah,
first these ones first, because
Okay.
it's mentioned there is a basic text here, so to speak, and it's also the kind of the basic overview. Then I will read the Gourd books. I will read the Sea of
that's
Death.
what I think Jason would say. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's it. So
Yeah.
third book, right? Whoops.
That's it right here.
Oh
the
my gosh,
third
Jason, I
book,
almost
right?
knocked your books over. They're back here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then,
Yeah, hold on.
then
one
you
second.
probably
What?
have like 99% of everything that is ever written about
Well,
the area if you go
Yeah,
through
it
this,
just
because
knocked
the rest
over.
is there's other fan stuff. But when it comes to officially published stuff, whether
I knocked
by
one under.
TSR or Wizards of the Coast or Gary himself, you basically have it covered there.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and
And knocked
what
City
we
Hawks underneath.
I'm currently reading through these books and commenting on them.
Yeah.
And on our recording last night, we went right to the chapter that dealt with the introduction to the Sea of Death. He calls it Sea of
Mhm.
Dust. And Gary had to change things when he changed companies, so
Yeah.
he called it the Ashen Desert, but
Mhm.
it's the Sea of Dust. And in the first 5 pages, that's all I did last night in the hour commentary, because Gary lays out the foundations from the rain of colorless fire that destroys the area,
Wow.
to talking about the ecology from the very beginning of the Sea of Dust, and it is to explain how it is not this lifeless area that it is thought to be. And he explains the way things are, and he also has it that people from yeomanry and the sea princes, they travel from that area, and people from the people are actually living in the Salhoot Mountains
Solid Mountains, yeah.
that come down, and from the Backloonish area of the dry steppes there, they're crossing down into the desert, and there are ruins. And in from Gary's description, those ruins are actually like the center city was buried under 100 feet of ash, as was most of this area. So even the places that survived were buried under 100 feet of ash from the colorless fire, magical ash. And so we get this description of the various things, how life survived, how certain things became big, how these tunnels became because of slugs that developed, and their mucus formed hardened tunnels through the ash, and how cities survived, at least for a time, by the great powers of the Sul, who were, massively powerful. And also that Backloonish reign of colorless fire, according to Gary, is a reprisal, that they didn't happen simultaneously. First, the Sul attacked the Backloonish, and then the Backloonish replied with the reign of colorless fire. Now, but then we get all this stuff around the edges, and it is not a low-level area, though. So it's not the kind of place where you're going to be able to start low or even really a mid-level campaign. But he does, right at the beginning, he lays the foundation for you to take and build this ecology. It is actually a very kind of Lovecraftian place with a lot of strangeness and mutation. And there's a story by Clark Ashton Smith called The Abomination of Yondo. And that is very much inspiration to Gygax's development of the Sea of Dust. So, there is a lot of adventuring opportunity and tremendous adventuring opportunity in the Sea of Dust.
And
but again, it's
Yeah, but you could do something like you could do some forays in from if you're in the Hold the Sea Princess. All the UK adventures are over here, right? So you have all those like the Sentinel and the Gauntlet are in this whole area, right? Of
Yes.
this, and you could actually maybe do come through into here's the whole area where
Yep.
the Sentinel and Gauntlet is. You could do some forays into the edges of the Sea of Dust, lower level. There's some things you could do if you want. You
Well,
could
well,
also. You could also do that city that Amy Crittenden has, right? That secret.
Lornacar in
Yeah,
western
Lorna
part. Yeah.
Kyle, which is over here, right? It's right here, I
Well,
think.
it's even further west,
It's
I
further
think.
west. It's here. Is that where
Yeah.
it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is, Lorna Car. So
Yeah.
that which is in existence.
I should probably move it further west because she had a much bigger valley inside. So I'm going to move it. It's on the list. I should make sure I actually put it on the list.
You have some options, but yeah, for entry level, it's probably not your most ideal place, but you could give them a little taste here and there on it. So Alex, hope that helps you with that question on there. In the Gazetteer of Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, page 154 and 155 talks about the Sea of Dust in here, and I'm assuming the glossographies and all that. We'll do it as well here. So I'm trying to, I don't want to say what we're doing here, but Josh pops on a special assignment here. So so hopefully that happens. So working on some things. Let me just click that. There we go. So why don't we just bounce around and we get some questions? There's also a tunnel that opens into the Sheldamar Valley. Yeah, well, that tunnel. The Sleruten tunnel is. I never knew that it was Leonard really worked on that hardcore, and it opened up around 597. So that's a good one there, and. Yeah, so you have to kind of vote where they're raiding into the Gary Con Gaxmore channel, and right now, so thanks Cal staff, thank you, thanks. They're all over there saying raid into us. No, I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. So it's very possible that that's when it opened up, but why don't we'll bounce around, take some questions on which ones. It's popular area for soul liches as well. I don't know, Alex. I think so. Let's talk about the soul lich, which appears in second edition. It's not a first edition monster. I just used one, as a matter of fact, Alex. Well, I don't think you were
you're
back
the expert
then.
on this, not me.
I used a soul lich right in this area here. Now it wasn't at the Soul Temple ruins, but Anna, do you remember that adventure?
Yeah.
Okay, I used a nasty soul lich, and this is a very swampy area of the Sus. Anywhere that the Soul migrated through, you can place a Soul lich, right? Because it just left there from years beyond and all. So yeah, Soul liches hid themselves amongst the migrants.
We know how
there you go.
Greyhawk and liches are kind of connected.
Yeah, very, very nicely done there. Gary holding with the pop in on that discussion. Yeah, so you could place them almost anywhere. The Soul Lich, which is a really nasty monster. Go ahead, Jason.
And you definitely find them in some of the ruined areas on the edge of the Sea of Dust, because it was only the powerful that were able to survive the Reign of Colorless Fire by shielding as much as they could of the city, the tower, the land around them. And so you really should be able to find soul liches in any ruins that you want to. You could have the lich's tower as a ruin that's partly buried in the ground.
Absolutely, which is what I did with it. It was ancient ruins. It wasn't a trachea itself. Anna's placed a trachea there, but they've never found it in my game. They're always around, and I think in Artifact of Evil they find some other ruins too. Correct? It's not.
Yeah,
those are the ruins, I think.
No. I thought that they said that it was another outpost, wasn't it?
Be.
Jason?
It might be.
Well, the in Artifact of Evil, they find something in the Sus Forest that is either, it's definitely older than and stranger than the Soul, but it might also be the lost city of the Soul, rumored to be. It could be that the Soul found it, rebuilt it. There's no definition of that.
Yeah, and
but
they don't name it, and Gary doesn't name it either.
I think that was smart on his part to do that.
Yeah, comes from Living Greyhawk or something like that. So I just used both of them just to kind of, yeah.
Yeah, very, very smart move for him. Sometimes it's better off to be very nebulous. And if you notice, I attempt to do that in some instances too, because I don't. You just want to watch it with. And I'm not saying trape and run over cannon, but sometimes you just like you don't need. You can create your own story. You don't need to go there specifically.
No.
Now I wanted to go there with
You can do
stray
whatever you
keep.
want.
Yeah, exactly. But in our community, it's kind of cool to take bits and pieces here and there. So why don't we let's pick a location and based on a reference. How about that? How about we do that? So why don't we go all? No, okay, let's be cheesy. We're right here. We'll do this one first. If you see this area here, Ritter's March, Oakenburg, Brenflis, the province of Prinsfield, which Anna recently redid, and you got Altamira a little bit up here. But if you want that area, that's northeast Principality of Ulick. And a lot of people don't even, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It is detailed in and it's not a great adventure, but it's detailed here in Patriots of Ulick.
Yeah.
All right. So, and Patriots of Ulick, it's not a great adventure, but it has some battle system in it, which is cool. But it has some details of these towns, and also Vincent Metalia has some really, really wonderful sketches of all three of those communities. So reference-wise, it's there. And Gary, are you adding those on, or are they not major enough cities? Are you going to add one or two of them? Let me know, because I know I gave them the maps for those, and so that would be an area simple. This is good enough to note that. Oh, very cool. Excellent, Gary. So the Cannon Fire map, and Gary, please link it now and link it many times. The city map reference, please, if you could, if you would link that in right now. And I'm going to link in the Discord connection for Cannon Fire now as well, so that you can go in there and you can click on maps. We're putting in maps for every location that has maps, which is really, really neat. So, yeah. All right. So, what's next? We're going to pick one, Anna.
Well, I was thinking, let's see, if we have, you mean that we have locations for, or information for, you know me, I'm terrible when it comes to knowing the modules, but I must say that you have Furiundi and Nyrond are detailed in the Marklands that are really, really a lot of cool reference if you want to pick up but the problem is that they don't cover one location specifically. Then you have to go to the pure adventure modules, so to speak, to do that. And that's usually part of outside my expertise. But you can kind of pick an area, and my trick is usually to not take one of the established. I usually create my own little settlement somewhere, at least for starting a campaign. And it's depending. You can have campaigns that are more road movie like, that you move the players along and move the characters along somewhere. You mean you go from location to location during an adventure, or you can have campaigns that are much more static, that are very local in characters, so to speak. My campaigns are usually very local to begin with for low level, because I want to have them less exposed to the dangers of the world, since I'm running a sandbox and all the nasty stuff is out there. So keep them local to begin with, and then expand and move geographically. There's also the other trick in that is that means that I don't have to develop that much area. So don't move about too much geographically. Pick something that is interesting and develop the hell out of it, so to speak. And because you can do a lot of cool stuff with just, especially when they're from 1st to 5th level. Any little settlement can do it, unless it's in don't pick the most civilized parts. Pick something that is a bit out in the boondocks or in some kind of hostile area, borderlands, and some like I picked in southern Shieldlands that are on the border between the Shieldlanders and IUs, meaning IUs can provide as many enemies in whatever category I need, so to speak, naturally, and the Shieldlanders can provide the good guys, and then you have some neutrals in between, and you can mix and match as needed. So when the players need opposition, you can always send in some nasties to do something. And so that, I think it's more like, and then it's more like what the theme you want to have, meaning is the theme monster hunting, to simply, I want to have lots of cool monsters to battle, that then you pick a location that is interesting, meaning I'm thinking about running a troll-based campaign in the future. So Troll Fence in the Northern Pale will be kind of interesting, messy place to simply go troll hunting for 6 months. But you don't need to be that specific. You can and you can be kind of generally just take Ratik, for instance. You have lots of forest and no one lives. You can have interesting monsters there that can roam around without anything. And also you have to decide if you want natural monsters or if you want very specific, interesting things like beholders and dragons and whatnot. So, and don't try to overdo it when it comes to, don't pick everything in the monster manual.
So David. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Run a theme, so to speak, for a while, and then move it along afterwards, or one or two themes. But and then you can run, if you want to have like big city adventures, then and city intrigue, and run a political, investigative, crime-ridden or mysterious murder mystery campaign, then you can pick a big city somewhere. So it's kind of the general theme of the campaign. I think is very important to pick the type of location you want to run in.
Okay. Cool.
That's my kind of general advice for people who want to start playing.
Okay.
But they will go for any setting, but that when it comes to specific Greyhawk, meaning you want big cities, then you have everything from the biggest, it was like Greyhawk City, Relastra, and others that are hundreds of thousands of people in, or at least 100,000 or so, and then you can find things to small little settlements, backwater somewhere, where you can have some local little baddie that they can fight for the first month, so to speak.
So Jason, why don't you pick an area and that you
all right? Well,
like as well.
I am probably a little more familiar with the modules because at one point I was indexing everything. So whether I played it or not, I've read through them. Now, I haven't played through this because I've just been exposed to it more recently, but it's an old dungeon magazine from 148, Gary Hawley and Spine Castle.
Right.
And the way that he's created it, it is perfect. I'd say it's probably going to be one of the best adventuring locales. In a sense, it's kind of the opposite Greyhawk.
It's a bit south, yep.
And as you know, Anna was bringing up Ratik.
There you go.
And Spine Castle is the northern city where a passage from the north leads up to Ratik. And then as you go down around the mountain chain up there in the Bone March, you get into Ratik, and Ratik itself has taken back from the humanoids Johnsport, which is down on the coast there. But anyway, Spine Castle. Spine Castle is a historical event. It's been taken over by humanoids, monsters. And what happens is they're mostly either from low level orcs. There's hobgoblins. There's gnoll contingent, ogres, trolls. But we're not talking about like, overwhelmed by high level monsters. But the whole city is now, and it's been for years, it's now been taken over, and they've established themselves there. And there are evil humanoids there. There are still captives from the taking, and there's a slave trade. And so you can do a low-level adventure or mid-level adventure or even a high-level adventure. But the kind of encounters you're going to run into in Spine Castle, the very different tribes are kind of at war with each other. Not like an active war, but there's always a struggle for dominance to who is running the city. There is a gladiatorial pit, so they're always looking for gladiatorial slaves. There are all these evil merchants who are taking advantage of going to Spine Castle and doing open trade and trading slaves for goods and gems. The whole area up there was known for its gems. There were the gnomes of the various hill areas, and so there's supposed to be a lot of gems up there and gem mines. The mountains, but the nice thing is, like the hobgoblins are driven out of the city, and they've taken over one of the 3 main outer forts that was run by Spine Castle. And so you can do a campaign low level, starting off like raiding into the whole area up there in the northern Bone March right from first level.
Yeah.
And you can then
Wow.
you
Yeah.
start off as first level. You can
You
leave.
are tough to the poor first level characters.
Yeah.
I know.
Damn,
great.
that will be TPK instantly if I did that. I think that will be tough. Yeah.
Well, the nicest thing is that you can take on, like say, all the towns and stuff that were abandoned, and the
Yeah.
way the power structure seems to go out is that the stronger creatures live within the city, and then the hobgoblins and orcs a lot of them are living outside the city, and then the ones that could be, because it isn't exactly mentioned, that could be occupying the old abandoned towns and smaller areas outside Spine Castle, you could have orc tribes, you could have goblins, you could have kobolds, you could, especially with the mountains, you could have zvarts, and you could have all these creatures of lower level to encounter first. And as you move into Spine Castle, your characters can be increasing their experience and then be more prepared to take on. But you can also do subterfuge, because you can accompany, say, like a caravan and be at risk of death every moment in Spine Castle. If they find out who you are, you can be captured and thrown into the gladiatorial pits. You could be sent off to be eaten by the gnolls.
Thanks for your effort too.
And so there is just huge amounts of possibilities. And right from first level, delving in, and it starts off, get the Dungeon 148 or a PDF of it, or find one there online. And you can then look over and get the basics of what's going on with Spine Castle. Now, on Cannon Fire, I've been working on some Spine Castle stuff from Gary's City write-up, and it is just an absolutely amazing setting for adventure, because it's so awful. I mean, when you have something like, say, Voluna, what are you going to do in Voluna? It's like, what are you going to do where they farm and raise sheep? It's much easier to have an adventure in some places horrible as Spine Castle. So immediately when you get in there, everywhere you look, there's danger, and everywhere you look, there's adventure, and there's adventure from the ruined cities, the ruined towns and villages. You can do a ghostly kind of Ravenloft campaign with, haunted areas because of the terrible things that happen. You can do an Under Earth campaign right away by, like, say, the mountainous areas. You could discover a tribe of kobolds that is, say they found the remains of a gnomish mine, and you go in there and you're fighting kobolds and you're getting rewards and you're finding, all these various things. And you also have ways that lead down into the Underearth. The Spine Castle has this magnificent castle over the city. And the way it was captured is they came up from underneath the orcs, and they burrowed up from the Underearth, and they came and they invaded the castle, and then they invaded the town while they were being attacked from the outside. But later on, some mystical force inside the castle slaughtered all the orcs. So the castle is like this haunted place. No, and there's ways. Maybe the kobold mines lead to the castle. Maybe there's a kobold mine that leads to an area that's controlled by the orcs in the city. So your players aren't going to have to face, like, the ogres. But later on, you can, when you're more powerful, you can take on rescue missions. Say one of your players has been in prison and taken off to the gladiatorial games, and you've got to sneak into Spine Castle and rescue them. Or suppose there's, like, something stolen by bandits that you need to recover, and they're taking it, and it's being sold in Spine Castle. You can go there perhaps as other evil merchants and try to steal it or buy it or whatever. The possibilities are
Cool.
endless, and they're all around the corner.
Awesome.
You know, everywhere you look in this area.
By the way, so for the giveaway tonight, we're doing references, so one's real and two are reprints. So you get your choice: Casey Bandit Kingdom book, the original glossography and reprint, Greyhawk: The Adventure Begins in reprint. So when you win, I'll give you your choice of these. Sound good? Very nice stuff. And the Casey, this one should have it does. It says, "Kill first, speak with dead later," as your little signature in here from Casey. You get that one. So some neat stuff.
That folio is very sweet, I'll tell you. I like that one. It has the map in the back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very sweet book there. It's a nice reprint.
So very cool. That was nice and detailed, Jason, which was excellent. And then we had CalStaff link up your reference, your Zavarda reference too, as well on that. So that was fantastic. All right, so for me here, everyone, I have like 6 areas I play. Let's go to the most recent new one I've added in. Okay. Well, oh my God, I'm all over the place here. And that's up here. Let's go to Narwhal and the Wild Coast. So the Wild Coast is exactly that. The Wild Coast, as Gary Julian taught me about 1.5 years ago, was never controlled by Keeland or the Great Kingdom. So it was always like the borderlands, the wild area. And here's Narwhal. So Narwhal is a cool city, and you also have, if you run around all these other locations, now some of these are my own, but Safeton, Pelgarn, Karnak, Cantona, the Ruins of Cantona, all the way down Fax, all the way down the Wild Coast, Elrid, Badwall. And so a lot of people say high ports on the edge of the Wild Coast or in the Pomars. That's your choice for saying where it is. But there are some really great references. There's 2 fantastic references for this area. And that is, number 1 is the Free City Greyhawk box set, the From the Ashes one. Now, this has the Narwhal map in it. This also has a lot of great stories of characters and NPCs in it. So this is your number 1 go-to for this area, and you don't even have to worry about what happened war-wise. You can still place it back in if you're a 576er. I don't think it's a problem. You can go back on that. The second one is that you want to look for that area is this one, and that's the Slavers reference. All up and down. This has Hardby in it. This has both sides of the coastline and the Woolly Bay running on both sides. So all the way down. And it talks about a lot of the areas. Particularly, it talks a lot about Cantona and the Malenti off of the Isle here in this area. And it talks about a lot of defendable towns. It talks about Fallowfield, Port Elrid, Badwall, and also talks about, what's the one with the Cockatrice Riders of Pasquarel are in here. All these locations they're all, they're discussed either From the Ashes or Slavers. So really good references to do it, and that's what I basically built my Narwhal campaign off of, what was started in From the Ashes, and went from there. So that would be a suggestion for me of a cool place to start out. And one other thing too, I placed 2 Troller Games adventures, Shadows of the Halfling Hall, and which is this town of Newbriar, and then Verdant Rage is this town of Comray, and I just placed them on the map. So I actually have some third-party stuff I've placed in this area too, in addition to some other things. So there you go, a good area with a lot of references for you.
There's also an adventure in Dungeon Magazine number 73 by Andy Miller.
Yeah. That
is set right there in the Wild Coast.
Noldare? Or is that the Ruins of Noldare, or is that
no, I think it's a different. It's I was just looking it up today because there's a city that too. Andy Miller developed as a ruined old ruin that he had developed as an old port city.
Okay.
So there's not a huge one, but a Dungeon Mag adventure set right there.
Yeah,
this has a little map in too.
Okay, this one, the Ruins of Noldare, is here as well, off the Sus border. That is in a dungeon as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. And as we work our way back up, there's some great references all over in this place. It's very fun. There's actually Lord of the Scarlet Tide, I believe, takes place in Narwhal as well. I think that's Wolfgang. No, is that James Jacobs? I think it's James Jacobs on that one. I get them all confused. There's so much going on. So, all right, Anna.
Yeah, I want to emphasize a couple of aspects to picking your location. First of all, different parts of Greyhawk and different settlements are interesting different times, so to speak. Some of them are very interested pre-war if you run from the box set in 576. Some places become very interesting during the war. Take Forjundi, for instance, is a good example of something that was dull before the war, very interesting during the war, and then became dull again, probably after the war, so to speak. And so depending on but you can invent your own conflicts and your own drama and your own cults and stuff too. So you don't have to go with what's in the published sources. But if you want to go with the published sources, depending on where you set your campaign time-wise, there are very interesting areas. One example is Ulmor. If you take it pre-war in 576, Ulmor is probably as good and dull as places come, so to speak. But if you take it during the war, it's hell on earth or hell on earth rather. and then after the war, it's kind of this kind of post-apocalyptic war zone, so to speak. And that's where I started my campaign in my Reldevin campaign. I invented a small little village, and this is kind of an example of how you do. You weave it into history, you look at the general area, and then you pick something why some should be there and what should be there. So I created again my little village, and I called the little village Entred, and it is situated just south of the Harp River when it turns north, so to speak. So if you follow the Harp River east from Shathold, don't go south to Shathold, and then you follow the Harp River inland until it's turned north, so to speak. It's not on that map. You have where the road passes over the border between Ulmor and the Great Kingdom. That's where I put that. There's a road intersection. Yeah, exactly. That road intersection. That's where I placed a little village I call Entred. And it was simply there because it was a stopover. There was a border, a little border post there that was like a little keep that was not manned that much because it was a peaceful border before the war, so to speak. So they built a little tower there and where they simply had toll and stuff and checked on who's passing the border. And next, a mile or two away from that border post was a little village called Entred. And it was basically an inn, a few kind of handy people that can kind of cater to the travelers, and there was the local little farming community. That was it. And I started the players there, but I started them after the war, where this was on the edge of, and it was no longer Ulmor. This was now the outer edge of the Principality of Reldevin. So it was now a martial area that was under martial law to kind of restore it back into civilization again after the war, when Duke Zephyrin had ruled and kind of murdered people left and right here and there. So you had a few inhabitants that survived after the war, a few refugees that came from everywhere who just settled down and survived there, and you have the Reldevin envoys, so to speak, some warriors, some rangers, and some priests from that was Reldevin envoys who simply settled down in every settlement just to keep an eye on things and make sure that there were no remnants of Duke Zephyrin or anything like that. But during the war, there was all sorts of enemies that had set up camp during the kind of the troubled areas. In the south of this, you have Black Splinter, another prince of Reldevin that has a black dragon in his backyard. He's a necromancer vampire. He's lived there for 350 years. This is not me making up. This is part of the it's in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, and then it was developed in the Even the Undying and in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, and then there was some extra in the Living Greyhawk campaign too, I think. So this is interesting. I took a lot of these kind of ideas and so on, and I kind of built upon them, so to speak. And I took something in between that should be there very well could be there, so to speak, and built from it.
Okay.
And that became, then the characters became dragged into the battle over should Gabbin be part of United Kingdom of Alyssa, and there was a power struggle between Lord Carven and over King Sevener and the North Kingdom and their Death Knights, and Duke Sephrin's ghost is still over the area, Shathold, and so on and so forth. So that was the political struggle over the area, and the future of the former great kingdoms loomed over the area, so to speak. And the characters were just hapless little beginners in the area, so to speak, that was gradually dragged into this drama. So I think that the story and the backstory of the settlement is really important, I think, in order to get the theme right, so to speak. And I think the perfect example of that is Hamlet, that Gary wrote, because he has, Hamlet itself is very, it's just a normal little village, has nothing really important to it, but the closeness to Temple of Elemental Evil, the stories surrounding it, and the kind of the factions that have infiltrated into Hamlet makes it a very interesting, intriguing story. And you have the power struggle between the Byrne and Rufus that is trying to defend the village and their agents and stuff, and you had the moat house where you have the bandits that are hanging out, and then you have the Temple of Elemental Evil that is kind of infiltrating the whole area, and the cult that is kind of, they need new recruits, slaves, resources, and stuff like that. So you can kind of build in a theme that affects the settlement and the area where you start, and preferably put it a little bit away and make it not too obvious to begin with. And it can also be political events that comes from far away. An invading force come all of a sudden one day and sweep through the village, and everybody has to defend themselves, and the characters have to be brave and fight in order to defend themselves. Or they attack the neighboring village, and people come fleeing first, so you give them some heads up, and the enemy are coming, so you give the characters a chance to flee or stay and fight. And so there's like, you can be, or it can be subtle. They can be that the cult is starting to recruit very, very kind of subtle to recruit new members, and you might lure the players to get their characters involved in it, or against a cult. So meaning the possibilities are endless. And I think you can, as any DM, you can kind of come up with cool ideas, but to ground it in Greyhawk campaign lore, I think is really cool, because that opens up so many interesting possibilities that you can build on after a while.
And you don't have to have them come from Hamlet.
No, you don't have to.
Them,
exactly.
There's plenty of towns you can make.
Yep.
The great thing about Greyhawk, the map, is there's so much room to place your own towns.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yep, it's so open that we have. And Jason, you mentioned naming, how to get names and naming generators. I'm going to slap a link to my absolute favorite, and
cool.
That is the ever-changing book of names done by a Finnish guy, and because it has Greyhawk names in it. And there is a paid version and a free version, and the free version has Greyhawk names in it. And
that's cool.
Rich Longatalos and several other Greyhawk community members have helped him do all these name generations and stuff. So there are
it says, right under supplementary
tons
books,
of Greyhawk names. It's
wow.
fantastic resource.
That's awesome.
And if you and please send him, I think you need an Amazon gift card or something, and send it to him, and he will give you the registration. And there are tons of things, from demon names, orcish names, English towns names, dragon names, everything, you name it. It's there. It's fantastic.
Excellent suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very, very excellent on that.
And it works as a free version too. You can figure it out and stuff. And it's a little bit aging right now, so you might get some issues with help files and stuff. But skip that. It works. Yep.
So Jason, pick another area for us.
All right. Well, okay. Now, there's a module. If we're covering modules,
sure.
And
it's a great reference.
But one thing I wanted to say is that there is anything you can think of, fantasy or even things out of the earth, you can find in Greyhawk. So you can do your campaign in the West, and you can do a Middle Eastern style campaign, or you can do even an Asian style campaign, because there's nations. I've just run across, Gygax mentioned 6 of them, both south and west of the Sea of Dust. 3 that are more Indian and Hindu Indian, and 3 that are more Asian, such as seemingly like Chinese, or that those, you can add anything. And so you can find anything that you want to do in Greyhawk, or just completely come up with your own thing. But if we're looking at modules now, one of those I've never run, and it's a railroady module called WGM1, called Border Watch. And like Anna was talking about, Furiundi, and it's set in northern Furiundi at the time when it's post-wars, and it's a time when Furiundi is suffering on the border there, because Uz has taken over the hierarchs of the Horn Society. But again, you can set it any time you like. You can simply have it as the hierarchs. Now, that area up there, it's up on the Vang River, and it details a few small towns. Now, the map inside does not have any of the towns, but one of my projects, I've just detailed 2 of the towns from a very cheap and easy map generator. And so if you went to Cannon Fire, you could find maps for 2 of the major towns that have been mentioned. They're already done. You can take them any which way you like. So GM1, it involves you're following a caravan that is being ambushed as it's by the forces of Uz, till it reaches a fort that is under siege by Uz, and a town that the Uzian forces want to capture. That is straightforward enough, and I think it's an exciting military style adventure. It's not so far the kind of thing where you're trying to puzzle solve. But Border Watch, at one point, we started with dungeons. Gygax wanted to go over to wilderness, and then we did city. And then he wanted to introduce combat-oriented adventures, and then they came out with mass combat, with their mass combat rules. But this isn't mass combat per se, but it is a this timed adventure where you're trying to get this caravan safely down to several towns that are along the Vang. And I like I said, I found it railroady, but very, very easy to alter, and it is a beginning level adventure. Yep. The other thing is, up in this area, along the Vang, you can also run it in 576, because you simply replace the forces of Uz with the forces of the hierarchs of the Horn Society.
Good point,
so,
Jason.
Actually, like before 576, Uz has lost part of his territory, and really the borderline with Furiundi is the hierarchs. But later on, the hierarchs are destroyed, and then it's all Uz that you're fighting. If you want to look at an adventure that is a little far north of theirs, that is a starter level, it's mentioned in Artifact of Evil. It's a small town just on the edge of the Vesve, north of Crockport and Chendal, all the way up by the Vesve forest. There is a town that mainly, it's called Tusham, and they mainly hunt boars. And south of it, there is a very rough town. So you can have a town like Nulb from Hamlet, where the people are untrustworthy. Now, you can start out at first level just hunting boars, but one of the things in the Gygax story is that Uz has introduced lossels from the Fellreef Forest. And so you can throw lossels at the players, which are very nice. I believe they're like a 2-hit die creature, but they can be more powerful. They come in big groups. They're like half orc, half ape. And in the story, there is a vicious creature called the Devil Pig. Now, it's a very high-level creature in the story, but you can lower it down and turn your boar hunting expedition and be going back and forth from Tusham to something a little greater and run into lossels and devil pigs. And the further you go into the forest, Oz is running a secret pathway through the back of the Vesvi forest so that he can push his troops down into the north of Furiandi and against the High Folk if he wants to. So there, you can run into outposts of Oz's troops. You can really beef up that whole area. You can even connect everything. They're within a same locale, so you could do border watch, and you could move over. Either start with Tusham and then successfully with that move over to border watch. There's a lot of stuff to do in what was a normally boring Furiandi. And then you can go to Crockport, which is kind of a piratical town. It's still under the control of Furiandi, and the capital of Chendal is just south of there, but Crockport is right on the waters up there. And Gygax describes it much more piratical, I think, than it is in some of the other source books. So awesome. You could do a pirate campaign with Crockport. To the east, you can do WGM1, and to the west, you can do Tusham, all low and mid-level adventures.
So let me do an addendum to that real quick here. Note some little bizarrities, and that is if you have the castles reference, Castle Hart and Barduk in the Border Watch are in the exact same spot, right?
Yeah.
So we have that little mess up here, which is so Anna's placed it nicely so that they're next to each other.
Oh yeah, meaning there's enough geography. You just need to tweak the geography a little bit. You can make stuff like that happen, so to speak.
Yeah.
But but they do weird things like that in published sources. They publish two things in different products that are exactly the same thing, or like with different names, and they don't check their own references, which is kind of
ridiculous.
Now the WGM has a location map for Barduk and some of the towns. I believe Barduk is more southern of the things on a curve of the Vang at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then there's another town going a little further north. But then, these are really minute references here.
Yeah,
There's
it's
really
close.
Not much.
It's really close on this map. On the map,
yeah.
So, but that is excellent, Jason. I want to do a little more addendum to that. So, if you're doing a Vesvi campaign, which I have, it's one of my areas that I love, and we have this way up here is the Eagle's Nest and all. But you pages Marklands. Of course, my cover's long.
And I use the Evelyn Marklands. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For Marklands specifically, there's a whole area, the High Folk and the Vesvi. All right, page 47 to 57, if I recall, 10 full pages, and there's NPCs denoted. There is this great map showing all the. This is from the Ashes era, all who controls what in the Vesvi. All right, so there's some great stuff in here to add to what you're going to do from the books from Gord as well. So you can get a lot of good information out of there. Cathay Lossels are one of my favorites of all time. You know that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
The Lossels. I mean, so I always say that the mongrels created the Lossels and I stole the idea. So, so yeah, Vesvi's awesome, and the Vesvi you can do all levels because you have communities like Flameflower, right? You have communities, you also have Knights of the High Forest. You have the Knights of the Holy Shield, not Holy Shield, Knights of the Heart. The Valuna, the Furiandi Knights, all running. You got the whole Valley of the High Folk too over here. So you have a lot of options for this area. Plus, you have the Defiled Glades. So really some wonderful things. So great
And
one.
the area is huge, meaning we're talking
Huge.
hundreds of thousands of square miles. So it's kind of it's the Amazonas of the Amazon forest. It's enormous in that size. It's
Absolutely
a forest that is like, well, it should be. It's bigger than California in one forest. So it's enormous. Yeah.
And Mordenkainen's Obsidian Citadel is right up there.
Yeah, it's in the Yatil's left of it.
It's right
west
here.
of it.
It's right
west
smack
of
dab
it.
in the middle here.
Yeah,
that is Shokanth. Here's Lost Caverns of Shokanth.
Yeah, it's up in the Yatil's there.
Yeah,
so
there it is. Obsidian Citadel's here. All right, so you got
when it comes to geography, it's some of the most interesting areas. You have some of the tallest mountains, you have the deepest forests, you have big rivers, you have lakes, and so on. So it's kind of it's very, very kind of geographically interesting too. So you have a lot of different variations. If you want to send them up in the mountains and snow and glaciers and stuff, you can do that. Deepest forest, along rivers. There's the Wysdale Lake and so on. So yeah.
Is there a map for the Obsidian Citadel? I don't think there is.
No, I don't think
so.
Yeah. There's I know from the Gord books there's a brief description and a picture of Tenser's castle down at midday.
Yeah.
But Mordenkainen just, I don't think there's even a mention of what the citadel itself is like.
So let's go to Tenser's castle, which is also denoted in something that I'm going to have to pop up because it's on my wall of fame. So here's another cool reference adventure. It's only 2nd edition module on my wall of fame. Why don't we just connect one into the other here? And that is Return of the Eight. Okay, so you actually will go to, in the name of the back, yes, that's it, Troy, love it. You will actually go to Tenser's castle at the very end of this adventure. You also go, there's a lot of places you'll go in this, but tie Return of the Eight, which takes place a lot in Greyhawk City. Okay, so with city adventuring is wonderful, and I know, let's map aside. Okay, we're not going to talk about the maps because we've done it in previous ones, but then again, you know, in my opinion, the best reference of all time for data, for guilds and stuff. And we'll talk about a lot of organizations for this next week. Free City of Greyhawk box set. You know, this is my sealed copy. I always like to flaunt. Right? So, yeah, I do have.
You haven't checked it, so you don't know what's in there yet.
Well, I can feel it. I you know, mentally.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and here are my books from my open set. You know, Folks, Feuds, and Factions, and Gem of the Finest. Some great information there. And if you are big on a city campaign, that is the one you want to utilize because it's got more data about any city than anywhere else I know of, and that's.
Oh yeah.
We are not spoiled with big city data.
We're not.
There are lots of big cities, but we're not spoiled.
And so that area here is got a lot of data done, along with the From the Ashes set, which actually details, you know, this, you know, we're not talking about the module, but the Doom Grinders in the From the Ashes, a great story. You fall in love with that story, and then you find out the adventure's terrible. But all these areas you see on this map, in the Cairn Hills, running through down the Aberals, all in the From the Ashes box set. You know, all detailed out. There are some like Graysmere that are in the Free City Greyhawk box set, and some on the plane, but most of them are more detailed in the From the Ashes. So this is a great area with a lot. If you just look at this map I have up there, look at all those locations that are set. And that's a lot of great data, a lot of great places you can go to, and you always have something to do in this area between Greyhawk and Hardby. One adventure that is not my favorite of all time, but has some good lore you can pull out of. Are you ready? I'm going to do this. Hopefully my head doesn't explode on this one. Oops, I just knocked over something else. Is this the Star Cairns? Okay. I rarely talk about this, but I want to because whoops, sorry about that. It shrunk. Oops, I just hit print. Oh my gosh, I'm hitting wrong buttons everywhere. The Star Cairns are actually noted on Anna's map. Here you go: Star Cairn, Star Cairn, Star Cairn, Star Cairn. Then there's the missing Star Cairn, which is, you know, still there. But there's 5 Star Cairns. You don't have to make them what they are. You can change them up, but there's some good stories in here. And in particular, Troy, thank you. In particular, the story of the first Starcairn with the necromancer Yellick, who I didn't talk to about in the NPC one that I had pictures up for her, the one with the lame arm. I kind of tied it into some of the stories that are going on in this area of the High Pass where the Covenant female necromancers hide out, right, which is up in this area. So there's some stories you can develop in this area, and this is actually not, it's kind of disjointed, the adventure, and a lot of the Starcairns don't make sense, but I don't think it was supposed to. I can't bash Sean Reynolds. He does such a good job with stuff. He you know, on this one is not. Trust me, this is better than Lizardred or the Doomgrinder, in my opinion. So there you go. Another cool reference.
Tower. Also, we have Ghost Tower Inverness.
Yes, you do.
One of these old classic modules.
Yes, you do. Right down here.
Yeah.
And what I did with this was, which I really I didn't realize it was there, Jason, for the longest time. And Troy, thank you so very much for those 5 gift subs. Is I would have the Harby group, my first Harby group, the Harby Irregulars. You know, and I love ship combat, and they would be coming down. They'd be going down here. I think Ghazal's over here, isn't it? Yeah, Ghazal, which is in the Dungeon magazine. They'd be going by. They'd be going by on their ship, and I'd always have a storm, and you know, you could see the ghost tower during electrical storms. Yeah. It would appear and disappear, and that's kind of how I introduced it to them. And they were first, second, third level, and then when they were fifth, sixth, seventh level, they did it. So it was recent. And when I'm talking about recent, I'm talking about 10 years ago. 10 to 15 years ago, I ran it.
Yeah, we have different perspective on recent, if we played too long or not. So, yeah. Yeah,
Sunless Citadel is generic Calstaff, and that is by Bruce Cordell. All those, I believe, and it's a top-selling third edition module of all time, if I recall. And that's another good one too. But yeah, this whole area is all detailed. I wanted to tie it into what Jason was saying about Tensor's Tower. On that one here, so
the whole area around Greyhawk and Woolly Bay, Wild Coast and stuff. Have had layers of generations of different Greyhawk content from the earliest days to through various editions, Living Greyhawk and even Gary post TSR period added into it thanks to the books and stuff. So there, and then we have the Paizohawk added to it with Ancient Worms, Adventure Path, and the Greyhawk book.
I left Expeditions downstairs. That's the one thing I forgot
exactly.
to bring up.
So there are numerous generations spanning for the whole entirety of D&D, basically, that is adding to this area. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to say with the Carn Hills, I find them a very exciting part of the setting because you can have endless small dungeons, big tombs, really, you know, big complexes, ancient ones going back to what they call the Urflan in some of the books, or even earlier, and they can be from any level you want. Because you can have tombs that were undiscovered, tombs that were looted, tombs in the Carn Hills have, say, tribes of monsters in them, or just creatures in them. There's endless possibilities with the Carn Hills. It's a big area, and it is supposed to be filled with millennia of tombs and the dead being buried there. And so you can do practically like anything you want there that's related to that kind of terrain. And you know, you're not doing like a Valley of the Kings Egyptian thing, but you're doing a kind of place like that. There's just so much mystery. There's a lot of things. There's if you like trap dungeons, if you like haunting dungeons, there's just it's just endless possibilities from level 1 to as high as you want to make it. And I've actually written a couple adventures for Carn Hills. I know one of them's up on the Cannon Fire page, but
well, Jason, get that for me and I'll take a look at it. I love running stuff in there. I'll run it. Sure, I'll run it on a stream coming down the road. I love that area, and I didn't know that. So,
Oh,
yeah, definitely. So, here's something you may not know about this area as well as we're talking here. There are 3 published source dwarven realms right on this map that you see right now, if you like dwarves.
Mhm.
Graysmere, which I believe is in this book here, or is it Caracast and
Mhm.
Dumadan. I think 2 of them are in From the Ashes, and 1 is in the Free City Grok box set. But look, all within this area of the map, there are 3 dwarven realms. If you like dwarven adventuring and like doing stuff with dwarves, okay, good one. Great point, Jason, on that one. Really a neat. And if you scroll up here just a hair, you get that right on the edge.
but
Doom
before
Grinder.
we-
Yeah.
oh,
And do
yeah,
we
yeah.
know who built these cairns, where the bodies come from, so to speak?
I
Or
don't think so.
the old, yeah.
That's a question for
And
Gary. I don't think
yeah,
so.
I have
Or
I
David
have an
Leonard.
interesting take on it now.
Okay.
When I'm starting to develop, I've developed the cold Earth planetary model, and then I'm now starting to develop the hot Earth model, because what happened, and the hot Earth, the premise is that sometimes back in history the climate was much warmer, so the polar ice caps melted, and the central tropical parts became really hot and deserty and stuff, and so climate kind of moved northward, just like it's done on Earth several times back in history. And the interesting thing, when that happens, this area around the Greyhawk, the Cairn Hills, Aberrals and stuff becomes an island in and warm island with subtropical Mediterranean climate. And that is interesting. Someone might have lived on it when it was that, some X thousands or hundreds or tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago. So if you have that scenario, it makes interesting. Someone might have found it the perfect spot to live in. It's defensible, climate is good, and so on and so forth back in the day. And then it's experienced ice ages and normal climate and stuff like that afterwards. So I'm going to do something with that backstory for my campaign based on a hot Earth model, because then
that already inspires me. Yeah.
Yeah, because then it becomes, and I'm going to put it like maybe 100,000 years back or something like that. I'm going to play with and make a sort of timeline that suits my campaign. But it's one of the interesting, and that will be, I will release it fairly soon and to my patrons, and then it will come, and then you can take that scenario and play with it and put in that somewhere in your settings back version of Greyhawk's backstory, so to speak, as an explanation of when the Cairn Hills, the cairns were made, so to speak.
Because I immediately think, from what Anna's saying, to do 579 or so campaign where somebody delves into a deep tomb, and at the bottom is a portal to the time period that Anna's talking about.
That is
so
cool.
that you can you can actually
take
the modern view.
Yes.
And have them step through, and suddenly they're in the same locale, but 100,000 years previous, and a whole different kind of setting around them. And this island, Cairn, Aberrals place there that is nothing like it is now.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so, that's what that's so glad you said that, Jason, because that was one of the ideas that why I wanted to develop versions of cold and hot versions of Earth, so you can play with scenarios like that.
Yeah. So, but as soon as she gets her work done, I can steal it.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
It's a community usage.
So
by the way, with all the cheers and all the subs, we'll do 2 giveaways. You get your choice twice. I have 2 of each of these, courtesy of Patrick and Casey. So yeah, you'll get your choice, each person, of one of these 3. All right.
Oh, they're all fantastic. They're some of the best ones. The Adventure Begins, the Old Folio, and Casey's book are all fantastic.
So of course Casey's isn't a reprint, but that's cool.
Oh,
thanks, Doc. Yes. All right. So who wants to go next?
Well, I've been talking a lot.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Anna, why don't we jointly, you and I, go do Shieldlands?
Okay, yeah, let's do Shieldlands. Yep.
So if you want to talk about a crazily different area, that my Shieldlands is nothing like Anna's, but that's good, because just to show that
you start with your version.
Okay.
And I can pitch in on mine afterwards.
So
Yeah.
my shield lands, we have an area that's partially reclaimed after post-wars.
So
And
yours is also post-wars, with Iusian War,
yeah,
or
yeah, absolutely. Because
Yeah?
so the one thing I didn't get in the Free City Greyhawk box set was it's talking about Artur de Jakartai and I always, gosh, man, Valderessa Sharn, and how they're in Greyhawk because the Horn Society is taking over the Shield Lands. I'm like, when the hell did that happen? I don't remember reading anything about that.
It's mentioned in Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. So
Well,
yeah.
it's mentioned in the articles that he and Rob Kuntz did, events
Exactly.
in the
Yes.
Flaness thing, and
Yep.
that's where it came
it's
from.
mentioned first, and then it reiterated in Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, that I must recommend, because they really did their sources. They went through their sources properly when they made the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer. So,
but then all of a sudden, that kind of goes away when Carl Sargent's From the Ashes come, and you know, I have it so that there's a lot of locations, and there's like from Crit Wall has been reclaimed all the way down. So if I go on here, you go Crit Wall all the way, Exeter's Bastion, up, and then it goes up this way. It's kind of like a little jut out all the way up to Homer's Hold, right, and back down this area here, and back down to through Axport. That is where they control, kind of like it's almost like a giving you the finger in the middle of the Shield Lands. But some things I wanted to note: the references for this is obvious. The Eyes the Evil reference, right?
There's some Living Greyhawk references on that map too, that I didn't remove them.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah, because I didn't remove them on the 576 map, because if they added to the content, I kept them. That was my
because they would have been there beforehand.
Exactly.
Yeah. Eyes the Evil, another one with the cover fell off, and it goes over to Shield Lands. There's a ton of PCs and NPCs in here. Very good one. And then the other one, which is a surprise, is generically placed. And we talked about this when Eric Boyd was on, and you can see it. It's on my map here that Anna placed, the Shield Reclaimed, and that is Bastion of Faith. It is Heronius Hextor in here, but they have an entire setting called the Shield Reclaimed. Well, what's the Shield Reclaimed? The Shield Lands, right? So, and this was meant to be generic setting, but it says where it could be placed. So I have placed the entire Shield Reclaimed setting that's in this book right there. So that's another one, you know, that you can utilize. And there's a couple other places and discussion points that you can use in this area. And then I know Anna has her entire whole extra campaign, but what references would you recommend, Anna, for your use?
Well, I've used the Living Greyhawk. Yes, at first I used the old box set, 83 box set, and From the Ashes, and Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, but also Bastion of Faith, definitely, both for flavor and for some of the locations. I think I will move. The players haven't been to Shield Reclaimed yet, so I haven't nailed it down yet, but I'm thinking about moving it into Crit Wall City itself, so to speak, and making it and make it, but we'll see a little bit about that, because I'm fairly similar to you, meaning I use Ranover and first the Horn Society and the Bandit Kingdom banded together, like the Warfields and a few others banded together and started fighting the Shield Lands before the war. So the Shield Lands were kind of war torn even when Iusians invaded during the war, so to speak, and they were run over almost completely. They in my version of it, they held on to the Walworth Isle and Edmundford, because in my campaign the Iusians are no seamen, so they couldn't make it there, so to speak. So in my version of the campaign, Edmundford was never taken, or so that was the refuge, and Scragholm Isle was not taken either. But Crit Wall was almost taken, so to speak, meaning they evacuated most of the civilians and they held on to it, and eventually with for Union help and others, Iusians, it was a stalemate, so to speak. And now they reclaimed the area around Crit Wall, and especially north of Crit Wall, there is the the Critwall Bridge. That's the only land connection to Furundi. They have that one too. And now they built heavily defended walls and bastions and stuff along the whole area around there, so to speak. And now it's gone almost 20 years since the war, which means that there's a whole new generation. And so the Shieldlanders are now a good sect. I try to make them into a good sect, meaning they're now run by tough, hardened commanders that are keen on doing it. And they have now backing from a lot of others money-wise too. So if you're a young person somewhere and you want adventure and you want to go where and learn to fight and get good equipment and training, Shieldlands is the place to go. Absolutely. Because they will give you a good set of armor and good weapons and training. And if you devote some years to service for the Shieldlands, and you can get excellent, they're like the Knights Templar order or something like that, in meaning that if you're eager and able, and they will give you a chance to be heroic. And they also have the best healthcare in the whole in the whole Flanese. I mean, they're more clerics and paladins than anywhere else. And a lot of Furundians and other poor ones, they pour over the border just to do it, so to speak. So they have momentum now. And to counter that, so Ayusians, they have Gensal. It's where you have your estate there. It's northeast of Critwall. There is a town called Gensal that was invented. Yeah, a little bit north of it. Yeah, right there. Yeah, there is a town called Gensal. That was a living Greyhawk invention. So I've taken over that I've kept that town, so to speak, and that town was initially the home where they grew apples, and they have apples and pear orchards, and they made apple cider and stuff like that. That was the initial products that it was kind of famous for before the war. And now it's been taken over by Ayusians, orcs, and humanoids and stuff like that, have been for almost 20 years, and they chopped down almost every apple tree you can find, so to speak. But I've invented heraldry for it with the apple and stuff like that for backstory. I always want to have backstory, so I know what the area looks like and how it functions, and because that tells me what buildings should be there and what ruins should be there, etc. And so there is now a generation of humanoids who live there, and from the beginning they were like, oh, it's awesome, there was a lot of loot, but now the humans are pesky and difficult to deal with. So the humanoids are starting to get wary and bored, and they're not being paid well, and it's gone the opposite. So now the humanoids are scared of the Shieldlanders who are starting to make raids, and Ayus don't want to pay them. He simply say, if they're not capable of raiding and getting their own damn loot, I'm not going to. And that's starting to backfire for Ayus. So he's starting to have to rethink things, and that's what my campaign comes in to it's the whole dynamic is shifting, but Ayus is not beaten up yet, so to speak. He wants to inject more force and to start crushing the Shieldlanders again. He can definitely do so, but Ayus is starting to be costly, and he needs to divert his resources, so he's not sure yet. And I let the dice decide that in my campaign. But the players are in east of South Keep. There is in east of, go down almost to the Naron, near the coast. Yeah, there is a set of hills, and there is a little road intersection east of it. There is my village of Aldet, and I'm developing that area, and that is the borderland between what is now Shieldland controlled and Ayusian.
You have a lot less Shieldland control than I do.
Oh yeah, but now they're expanding, but they haven't been, because they, instead of expanding, they have reorganized. And they want to control what they have to 100%. And when they strike back, they want to do it with force, so to speak. So they built momentum and strength rather than trying to conquer territory they might lose again, so to speak. So they're making sure that they and build allies and stuff. So they're coming back.
One big difference between Anna's and mine is I have a third force thrown in here. Mm-hmm. And that is, I have the people from the Theocracy of the Pale, which
you have them. I have other thirds, but I don't have the
thrown in here. There's towns there are ghost towns. Yeah, hey, let's fill them. Yeah,
yep. So that's what I have too. Yeah, but not from the Pale.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but I have the
the great thing is you can go any direction you want
exactly.
in your campaign,
That's
and that's a great
exactly. This is
discussion.
the cool point. What suits your style of play and the kind of story you want to tell, and what you think your players want to experience, that should guide you. And then if you really succeed, please tell me how you do it.
One last thing, another reference, and I'm going to add this as a fourth possible for giveaway because I have two of these down here too, courtesy of Patrick, and that is Adventure Crossing into Steel is actually set starts at a monastery inn of Hieronymus in the Shieldlands, but it doesn't say what town. Now, I just ran this at the end of my Shieldlands session. It's cool. And I had it set, the final thing running up at the ruins of the Gradivis estate up here. So that's where I placed it. But it's in Treasures of Greyhawk, and it's a really powerful weapon at the end that is a possibility from the Cleric Paladin Santher. It's really neat. So there you go. Something. This Treasures of Greyhawk is a treasure full of adventures that fit this area. So all right. So Jason, we chat a lot about.
I wanted to.
Go ahead.
I wanted
we have
to
a
say,
good question too.
Cool.
That even exciting stuff with the post-wars, but pre-wars, it's still Shieldlands is a really rockin' place in 576 because the northern Shieldlands, they're being ground down by the hierarchs rather than us, and then they have the treacherous bandit kingdoms off to the one side. So what I have is that the Shieldlanders, they're trying to keep an eye on the bandit kingdoms, but at the same time, the bandit kingdoms league with the hierarchs because just to oppose the Shieldlanders. And so the hierarchs are always enlisting the bandit kingdoms, especially 2 or 3 of the most western of them. Now, the Shieldlands, in a way, in my campaign, are a bit like, say, like pre-World War II Spain, where all these volunteers are coming in our world to fight the fascists. In here, you can bring in your characters from any nation on Earth in the campaign I'm running to act as this kind of volunteer foreign force, or to join up with the regulars of the Shieldlanders and to fight both the Bandit Kingdom and the hierarchs of the Horn Society. Now, the hierarchs pre-war, are very powerful. The Uzians are leagued with demons, while the hierarchs are leagued with devils. And in fact, Gygax has several of the demonic places like Hades and Gehenna as the ruling hierarchs are representatives from there. And their overall head is actually Neril, which is a Flanish god of death. So, I definitely have where they maintain these huge armies of hobgoblin troops in the Horn Society. So there's this grinding raid and counter raid along the whole north of the Shieldlands pre-war. And so that whole area up there is, like you said, it's ruined fortifications, ghost towns. And if you think of, like, say, what happened with World War I and how there is a strip of land from Belgium all the way down through France that is just being, ground over, where this fight goes back and forth. So, that's what I run with a pre-war Shieldlands, and it allows you to bring in introductory characters of any sort to join the forces. But it is, again, it doesn't have to be a military campaign. It could be a group of adventurers who are seeking something in the Lost Lands up there, some rumored dungeon. They could be trying to do a mission like Kelly's Heroes, where they're looking to rob a bunch of gold.
One of my favorite war movies of all time there, Jason. Love the Kelly's Heroes.
So there again, your background is warfare, but you don't have to run a warfare campaign, except that, if you're in this area here, that area is at war. So
and Shieldlands is I totally agree with you, Jason. The only difference is that I run my Horn Society as Old Flan, And Nerul is
Yes.
one of their main deities, because it's old Flan, so to speak. So
Yes,
it's
and
the dark faith, the dark side of the old faith, so to speak. So that's how
yeah,
I run them.
mine too. The Horn Society, it represents this kind of combination of nature and devil worship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have devils. I have the more. They kind of go not so much devils, because and especially not recent time, because the devil tree, that's where the Great Kingdom came in, so to speak. They took over the devil tree. So the horns, but more kind of neutral evil and evil more than lawful chaotic is not the interest. It's the dark side of the force, so to speak.
Yeah, it's supposed to. Gygax really pressed on us as chaotic evil. The Scarlet Brotherhood is lawful evil, and the Hierarchs is neutral evil.
Yeah, and also it's interesting because Shieldland is interesting even because go before 576. It was once the northern borderlands of the Great Kingdom, and before outside of it, it was uncharted kind of. So you can run it even back in the day. Shieldlands was then the border territory between what was conquered by and controlled by Rossies and Iridians and civilized, what they would have called civilized, versus nomadic, cultist, whatever north of it, so to speak. So you have a lot of interesting possibilities. So Shieldlands is very interesting throughout history.
Yeah.
When you take Living Greyhawk, they introduce things like a big red dragon. You have the White Plume Mountain with Caraptis, Dragotha, you name it, meaning there is a lot of interesting, and there's even a Vecna connection with Halmada the Cruel. I don't know who wrote that story, but that was written in there too. So there is all sorts of Greyhawkish connections throughout its history that I think are super, super interesting. And then you have Rift Canyon next door too. So there's plenty of interesting, and several, meaning you have two of the big bad evil ones in Horn Society and I use. But we had a good question about 10.
Yeah.
And to me, it's kind of, it's sad what they did. First, I was like with Horn Society during what called Sergeant, and they did when they kind of wiped out 10. But just like when you're given lemons, I want to make lemonade. So the fate of the Horn Society and fate of 10 kind of made me interested in the Flan and Old Faith, and I devoted a lot of kind of development, my own version of it, so to speak. So in my campaign, they holding on to a thread, by a thread, so to speak, and they have Red Span and the surrounding 50 miles or so northeast of it. They are still controlled, and it's simply because they are given outside help. They are now giving support, which is kind of interesting. Before, and that's in my campaign, one of the big cultural shifts in Greyhawk now, because during the Great Kingdom's glory days that has been for 600 years, it's been the kind of the civilized world that has been controlled mainly by the Uridians, and with some a little bit of Sul and some old Flan that has been kind of incorporated into it, so to speak. But they have ruled culturally, militarily, politically, have ruled it now, and especially the Flan have been almost wiped out. And that was kind of the end, the culmination of it. Now, when the Great Kingdom is falling apart, the old Flan is popping back up again. And the Horn Society, the interesting thing was that in my version of Greyhawk, Ayuz was a Flan hero that was sent to, just like the Death Knights was sent by the Flans to mess with the Great Kingdom. But they both backfired, because the dark side of the Old Faith is kind of, it's powerful, but it's weird, and it strikes the wrong way. So 10 is now, and what happens is that now you have new interesting alliances, and the perfect example is Veluna and the Elves and Old Flan, meaning Veluna was a mixture of Iridian and Elven power with High Folk and up, and that now they adopted Palor and Rao as their main, which are old Flan deities. So all of a sudden, Furiundi, Veluna, and the Elves have joined forces with Flan. And shield lands are now part of that new pack, that new alliances and stuff that hasn't been seen ever before. But it's a new political situation, and new friends are finding each other because they have mutual interest. And Ayus was the one that wiped out the Flan nation through his subdivorce, which meant that he went from supposed to have been a Flan hero into a Flan enemy. And that all of a sudden changed the dynamic drastically. So that kind of screwed up politics and stuff. So that's what happens in my interpretation of it.
Yeah. See, in mine, the Horn Society starts as rovers of the Barrens, or just pre-rover Flanish nomads, as with 10. Yeah. And what happens is the rovers are the surviving of the original amalgamation of the Flan nomadic culture there. But the Horn Society, this nomadic heroes, they were corrupted somewhere within the main city. They discover these ancient ruins. They go to explore them, and the men who come out are now welded into what were their horned helmets, and they are now corrupted, and they become the Horn Society. And with the Tenna are like back when the Turkic people started out as horse nomads. There was like one group of them out in the east who settled this area around Afghanistan, and but I think it was more like
the Bactrians or something like that. Yeah,
and they were Turkic people, and 100 years went by, and they were an advanced civilized culture who they were more interested in poetry than war. Yeah. And then I think it was the Tamerlane conquests came and just wiped them away. And so the Tenna are these Flan who have been heavily influenced by the Uridians and still have this idea of their culture. That's why they're called the Tenna host. And they are this basically Flan nomads who have been culturally changed by the Uridians, but they've maintained part of their Flanish culture, nomadic.
I totally agree with that. I think, and for me, it was that the reason it was formed there was that was the borderland of the Great Kingdom of already airly controlled territory. So they were this kind of bridge culture between the two, so to speak. They could thrive on having contact south with the Iridians and Rossis, and also do trade and other cultural contacts north with the rovers and other Flanish tribes and so on north, so to speak. And that's why they were formed there. So it fits my bill. And and also I have the Horn Society are the last remnants of the Ur-Flan in my take.
They'd be that far back.
Yep.
So that's
real quick, everyone. We had Tyler Moore's wife come in. Just note, 2 giveaways. You get your choice of one of these 4. 3 of these are reprints. Okay, Treasures of Greyhawk, the Greyhawk: The Adventure That Begins, or the Greyhawk Lithography. But Casey's Bandit Kingdom one is an original with a nice little notation. And I'm doing 2 of the giveaways. You get your choice. Okay, please feel free to sign up. Thank you all for coming in on the raid. And this was a deep. You came in on the deepest part of the discussion all night.
Oh yeah, this was really deep. Jason and me going off on our rookers here.
It's all good.
When Jason serves me a curveball like that, I can't resist. I have to dig into it. I love it. So thank you, Jason. It's so
it's all good. No, it's okay. That's part of what we're all about here. Is that discussion?
I know we've gotten away from.
It's all good.
We got away from it. But what you can do is that you can kind of read some of this, get inspired, and then pick your little settlement or create your little settlement and have this backstory, just have it floating around a bit, because that will can guide you into what temples is there, what ruins are there, and what old treasures and family heirlooms, or whatever heirlooms that around to be found or protected or bring to safety, and who's fleeing into the area from out there somewhere that might need help, or other stuff that can be something that you can base your campaign and get off your adventures off to, so to speak. So
So Oh, yeah, here's another
Intense.
area.
Oh, that's awesome. Gaetano, that was awesome.
Yeah, I was like,
Intense.
oh.
Yeah, got intense.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So let me think here. All right, let's go to some more some out of the way areas.
Yeah.
Let's go talk. Well, not out of the way. One of my favorites. So let's talk about the Sheldamar Valley and Keeland.
Yeah.
Right. Where would we go for Keeland information?
Living Greyhawk Gazetteer again.
Living Greyhawk Gazetteer again.
Yeah,
Right.
and there is some living journal that was written, extra articles in the. Hang on a second.
Yeah, and the Gary Julian articles on Keeland.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And
there you go, Gary. See, I did it because I wanted to wake Gary up.
Oh, cool! Awesome.
You can start with Ghosts of Saltmarsh.
Goes to Saltmarsh
yes,
too, and
that's-
the original Saltmarshes, year 1 through year 3
Yeah.
as well.
And
Absolutely.
Orlane is a perfect starting adventure in the Sheldamar Valley.
Yes, and that's in the Grand March.
Yep.
So that is
Another
all
old,
up here.
wonderful
Yep.
starting module. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that. So I'm trying to find the Gary Julian Keeland to pop that up here. Keeland. I'm just doing a quick search on see if I have that JPEG up. Is that it? Here's the map from it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
Living
okay.
Greyhawk Journal. I forgot which. There's one issue of Living Greyhawk Journal that has.
Yeah. So
Gary
there's, I
Julian's
believe that
wonderful
comes from
article.
Gary's article, that map,
Yep.
Gary. So and I'm trying to find out specifically here. I think I have the article right here. I do have it. Okay. So let me throw this
Number
over
one.
here.
Okay, number one.
Was it number 1? Here
I
it is.
think so. Hang on a
Gary,
second.
where was this? All right, so this is your go-to for Keeland. Yeah, N1, Curtis. N1 is awesome. It's one of the newest
Yeah,
ones I
it's
ran.
number one. Yeah,
It's
number one.
Living Greyhawk Journal number 1 is this.
Mhm.
Yeah, Starwich technically is it Sheldamar or not? But Starwich is the you got the against the Giants.
It's
Well,
part of
yeah.
the Sheldamar Valley.
Yeah, it's part
the
of it.
whole
Yeah,
area,
so-
that region.
But the-
yeah.
But this is a fantastic article. If you want your Keeland information,
Mhm.
and if you want a modern, completely destroyed Keeland, then talk to Greyhawk Reborn because that's where they venture.
Oh, okay.
They venture,
yeah.
but way in the future. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So here, look, there's Saltmarsh. So he's even talks
Yeah.
about that in here, and all. And and there's the map for it. So this is your go-to Living Greyhawk Journal 1, or also the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer is good. And so you get some information. The question is, would you put the Sea Princes in that region? And the Sheldamar, that's a good question. They tend to not be. That's a great
Well,
question,
there's-
Gary.
They're pretty south there, and
Yeah.
off by themselves. And
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a great question. So
and that area has a heavy Ullman influence. So
yeah, it's a good area. Don't confuse Greyhawk Reborn with Greyhawk. I agreed 100%. We're talking about Greyhawk Rebooted. Don't want to even talk about that. Greyhawk
okay.
Reborn has like 15, 16 adventures in Greyhawk Con. They even put a brand new adventure in like 2-3 days ago. So I don't even think there were any signups yet for it. A brand new one. So there's still rooms in some of their games. They play a post Living Greyhawk Keeland area, and it's pretty cool. But it's 5e. It's 5e play too if you're into the 5e. So, but one thing we wanted to note though, Jason, about the Sea Princes area, and that is that you go and Sea Princes. If you really want to be a glutton for punishment, then I guess in the Scarlet Brotherhood reference, you're going to have your Sea Princes that are taken over by them. But I don't kind of like that. But the main place you can go for Sea Princes information is Greyhawk Mike's blog, right?
Yeah.
On all the fleets he's done, and in the what Earth Journal is that, Mike? If you're on Greyhawk Mike, he's done a lot of great work on the Sea Princes that you can pull out some wonderful information. But note, if you really want to get into detail here, I'm doing a little joke. You get way down in this area here, where the UKs are and all this stuff. You can really have some fun because the greatest adventure of all time, Gargoyle, takes place down here too, right? So,
yeah.
Just kidding.
But you're getting what?
That's here,
Sentinel,
Rockburg. There it is, Gargoyle.
Yeah.
So.
And down south, you're getting what? Sentinel and the UK modules. There were the two connected to each other.
Sentinel and the Gauntlet.
Yeah,
Sentinel and the Gauntlet are down in the Berghoff,
Yeah.
Gargoyle was up here, and then you have Malkosia, which is Malden's. You go to Malden's website and you get all the information on Malkosia that you certainly want, and that is this area back here too.
And
So
you find in the Living Greyhawk Gazette here some tidbits about the age of the Sul Imperium. Down here in what became the Sea Prince's hold were actually several practical establishments by the Sul Imperium. There's a lost city that was also a heavy mining community that was used right down here. It's just slightly mentioned in the LGG. And then I believe Malden's Melka is also supposed to be,
Yeah,
you know, in Sul Imperium days.
Okay.
So now, implied in Gygax's books, these mountains he refers to as the Inferno Mountains, and there's an implications that they didn't exist until the reign of colorless fire, because that strange circular mountain chain, it seems to be sealed off in the south from normal plains by the rising volcanoes. So before there were those mountains that are in the Sea Kings area here, there was actually a rise of volcanoes that ends up sealing off the Sul Imperium, and also contributing to maybe the survival of some of the areas that got a coating of lava and ash that provided some solidity around the burnt ash from the colorless fire that was either a mutating substance that caused severe mutations. So you get a little gamma going on in there, an abomination. But from the active volcanoes, you actually end up getting, you know, material that eventually acts as almost fertilizer, bringing up all the mineral riches in the volcanic. And also the lava kind of, the ash itself is not, you can't like walk normally on it. So that provides like a little solidity there for life on the what became the lava fields and the material thrown out in the volcanic explosions. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's very interesting right there. And so the Sea Princes, right off the bat, you have 576. You have pirate campaigns, you have raids, some suppression coming from Keolandish ships, and you have, so you can link the two together right there between Keoland and the Sea Princes.
A lot of people don't realize how close Saltmarsh is to the Sea Princes.
Yeah.
You know, it's right there. So
yep.
Yeah.
It's right across. So. And
so, you know, as two naval things, you're going to have the one trying to avoid, you know, the pirates of the Sea Princes. It's a very fun region. It has, like I said, you can do pirate campaign, you can do a naval warfare campaign, you can do raids from the Sea Princes on Keoland, Saltmarsh, you can have an old Sul campaign, and you imagine the kind of people who would come looking to find, say, any lost lore that might have survived in this area. So you can have magical campaigns, quest campaigns. It is really a wonderful, and honestly, there's so much going on the earth that I can really point out to you in almost any location. You know, either published sources or amateur sources that have really been thinking about these areas. I shouldn't say like Valuna's dull. I just Valuna is one of the areas that's strong and settled, but there's plenty to do there. But every area, it calls on something different. You can go up to the north and run a nomadic campaign. You could take something from like Game of Thrones with what were the Durakai or something, and turn one of the tribes into that, and you can have this, you know, see what's going on there and spice up what you're doing with the wolf nomads or the tiger nomads. You can have a Backlunish campaign where the very people in the fragmented Backloonish territory, they're at each other's throat. They're hereditary enemies. The Panem don't like the Tasmeti. They don't like have no respect for the Ulites. They hate the other Backloonish of Zeif and Ekber and of Ket. You know, and there's wonderful Ket. You can go in, and they have troops made up of foreign mercenaries. So you can go to Ket and join right up, or you can be a caravan guard or an adventurer. And the whole area is also, you know, the invoked devastation that destroyed the Backloonish. There's a huge, old, powerful society that lies in ruins all around the Backloonish areas. So and you can do an internal Backloonish where you don't want to deal with the Flyness, and your characters can be like, they can be, you know, like pseudo-Hindu, pseudo-Asian, they can be Middle Eastern, and you can just run a campaign that doesn't even touch on the East and the Flyness. So there's so much rich areas here that when you point at something, it's like, well, wow, we can do this.
Gary just said Thornward's one of the best adventuring places ever, and I'm trying to figure out why he said that.
Well, it's right there at the place between Ket and Bissell.
Right here.
West and east. It's this gap that you're showing right there.
Right
and
there.
That
okay, it's a crossroad. It's basically between okay.
Well, it's the only connection between Backloonish West and Backloonish areas and the Flannese.
Sure. Right.
It's the only
without going all the way up.
Yep. The only feasible way, unless you have to go up through the wolf and tiger nomads, but that's a couple of 1,000 miles of extra.
And there's supposed to be a trail from Pearland through the mountains. I think it's on your map.
Yeah, it's
well, there is a trail. There is a couple of passes. Yeah, you have the dragon's worm's tail. Or hang on a second. No,
yeah, I think something like
worm's tail pass. That's what it's called. There is actually two. There is the worm or three. If you go, it's the most kind of known one is the Krestingsträck, the Worm's Tails Pass that goes between Molvar and Crestibol, and Molvar in Ket and Crestibol in the Pearland. But then there's a hidden one between Highfolk and Falvor in Ket, and that is Elonna's Scar is a hidden one there too, through the Yatils, and that's one. And then there's another one through the northern Yatils that is hidden, that was written about in Living Greyhawk, and that is if you go all the way up to the city of Exag in northern. It's a free city. It was never conquered, so it's a free city up there. And west of it is a dwarven hold of Dunovir, and they have
I don't even know where
carved
is.
out the
I'm
tunnel.
sorry.
It's west of there, west and north. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. So you have there's the hold of Dunovir, and they have actually built a tunnel under to what they call the Kund outpost. The dwarves have dug through many miles of Yatils, a tunnel through. So there you can go between Tusmit and Pearland. So that's one of the main reasons that Exag is there too. So the dwarves,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
was not my invention, so it was written about in the sources. So I just put it on the map.
Nice.
Yeah, and in the Gord novels, there's a pathway from the northern valley of the Mage to the Bramblewoods in Ket, and then also in down in Ull, in their city of what is it? Is that Crestor? I know he calls it Gastor. In his book.
It's Crestibol.
All right, and that has an entranceway into the Underdark, which you can travel down to the Vault of the Drow.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that? What?
Southern Ull. There's Kester.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Clavdra in this book
there
comes up through there
to
go to the Sea of Dust.
So,
which kind of makes sense because it's really high country. So it's kind of makes sense. You can have a lot of dungeons under there before you reach sea level, and where there's more likely for them to be flooded, so to speak. So yeah.
And that is an incredibly exciting area for adventure. That
Yeah,
whole area is in turmoil.
Mike Bridges and yeah.
Very cool. I did not know that connected to the Vault of the Drow. That's neat.
Yeah.
Jason, you just educated me on something really cool there. Yeah, that is awesome.
I've read those books so many times, and I just doing these commentary, I just realized, and we just our little group pulled that out. It's amazing.
Mike is skeptical.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's funny. Really cool. So we'd be amiss if we don't talk about the Great Kingdom, right? We should.
Oh yes,
we should
we have
really
to
talk before we call it an evening here. And you know, with the Great Kingdom, I have two, and of course, you know, Ivid the Undying is the main one here.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And this,
which we have to say, it's never published. It's only available, and you can download it in PDF or Word or something. Just Google it, and you can find it.
Well, we have it on Cannon Fire.
Okay,
so
good. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and people put together this wonderful cover and made it into looking like a published module. So it's great.
Yeah.
And then a new one, which is kind of almost its own setting, and I'm going to shout out Carlos here. This is the 9, right? Part in that area. It's Relastra, right? In that Relastra area?
I think so.
Carlos is the 9.
Oh,
yeah.
That's one I don't
I have to get that one.
So a little hint, John Birchfield's new adventuring group is going to be in this area.
Cool.
Coming up for Greyhawk Awakening, I believe. So, see Medigia, yep.
Yeah.
Sure. And I know I sure was talking to John Birchfield about it, picking his brain there. So that is a cool thing. See Medigia. So this whole area, if you look, this area is so freaking huge, and there's nothing. You know, there's some areas, but there's detail.
It's screaming to be detailed. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And I haven't adventured there yet, so I haven't even detailed it for my campaign much.
So just wanted to point them out. We've done an entire Legends of Lore just recently on Ivid the Undying, which you can go on my YouTube. It may still be on Twitch here. It's definitely on my YouTube channel with Dale Assure coming on. We're talking about a lot of the references in there, and that was done recently. But we have to talk about that, you know, as an area of development. All right, let's round table 3, 1 or 2 or more quick ones as we're coming on time here.
Well, when we're in that area, I have to recommend western part, Rel Devon and former Almor in that area. I spent 7 years in that area adventuring, and it's kind of awesome. It's a great, interesting area, especially post-war. It's very, before then, it's not that much. It's a little bit like too dull maybe, but post-war, during the war, post-war, it's very interesting. You have, it's become all of a sudden a borderland, and you have, it's become part of it is kind of a wasteland afterwards. It's the Principality of Rel Devon are run and by both the goodest guys in the former Great Kingdom and the worst in combination. So it's kind of cool. It's run by Prince Carvin, who is a lawful good, and some of his other relatives who are lawful good, and then you have their evil cousin in Ferdinand in Black Splinter, who is a vampire, who is an old vampire necromancer, and then you have in Coldstrand, you have Overking Savener, who is a savvy, evil, bastard, greedy, but smart, younger ruler who is an up-and-coming upstart, so to speak, and he wants to put United Kingdom of Alyssa on the map, so to speak. But he needs unity and so on and so forth in order to do that. So it's if you want to run something that is like Game of Thronesy with rulers trying to backstab each other and have make alliances, break alliances and stuff, this is the area for you.
What reference books?
Even the Undying.
Even the Undying for this too.
And Living Greyhawk Gazetteer.
Even the Undying and the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer.
Yeah, and Adventure Begins. I have
has some stuff in it too.
Yeah, because they list some of the things during the war. But when you have the expedition of or what's the guy that Osson when he runs around the whole country during the war and stuff. So you have things like that, and then you have tidbits here and there in old stories about the abyssal maw. You have the Greyhawk journals, the story about the Death Knights in Dragon magazine, and that ties into it because the temple where the Death Knights were made is in Rel'Devin. And so it ties into it. It's the Temple of Lohan and stuff. So there is so much cool old Greyhawkish history that never made it into the old modules, but it's in the setting books. And this is kind of the cultural heart of Greyhawk, and it's the heart of the former Grey Kingdom that shaped the area. But there are no official modules set here or anything, but there are tons of interesting setting material. And you put in Carl Sargent's work of even the Undying and the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer and stuff, and it's an enormous amount of interesting material, and it's really cool. So you want political intrigue, you want good and evil and gray and stuff like that, then this is the area you should go for.
So I'm putting something in chat. Rich and Gary, please link the city map from Maps from Cannon Fire, and
I'm laughing at Tim.
If there is a link, and the postcard page. Okay, which is going to be in a PDF. Okay, there you go. All right, both of them. Please link those. These are great references. The postcard page is coming out in one big PDF with every location in it. We've all done, like myself and a lot of people have done those postcards up in certain areas. Thank you. Cool. So there'll be an entire PDF, and we'll be able to give it to you right in Discord or via email shortly. So. All right, so that was a good one, Anna. Why don't you finish up, Jason, with a quickie area you want to hit up at the end?
Well, I mean, I'm not big on the Grey Kingdom, but there's a lot of things that you can do from first level on up within the Grey Kingdom itself. The conflicts. Now, I like the conflict between Nyrond, the North Province, pre-war, and the Grey Kingdom. The Adri Forest is the center of a lot of conflict. And also there's a desire for Ivid to seize, well, not only destroy Nyrond, but to seize Nurl. And then I don't know what else they plan for the Bone March, but
it's depicted in the Gord books. It's awesome. Yeah.
But the other thing is within the Grey Kingdom itself and on the borders of its various provinces, there's a writer named Raphael Sabatini, and one of his most famous books made into an Errol Flynn movie was Captain Blood. And it starts out with this doctor. There's a rebellion against the current king, and there's a doctor who treats one of the wounded rebels and then gets wrapped up and enslaved. Now, you can take this as a part of the Great Kingdom where the characters start out as just, say, like a little group of adventurers or city dwellers, and they can get wrapped up in the repression that is, like rife within the Great Kingdom, at least the way I saw it, and then start taking that campaign up there. You can run a rebel campaign. So I haven't really done that yet, but I've thought about it more since I'm not a big Great Kingdom guy. All right, and then I would say there's something I'm doing right now, so I'd like to bring it up.
Sure.
Carl Sargent, I'm not fond of his setting work, but he's a great adventure writer. He's back from Games Workshop days, Warhammer Quest, their Hero Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, wrote some fantastic adventures. So he wrote this adventure called Night Below, and it is Greyhawk with the serial numbers rubbed off. Normally, they set it in Yeomanry, but what I'm doing is setting it in Verba Bonk. And so a lot of things we talked about where here you see, now Verba Bonk should have lots and lots of small farming villages. and herders and stuff to feed the city at the very least. Now, it's on the east is the Welkwood. To the south are the Cron Hills. Saline is down there, but tries to isolate itself. So if you combine Night Below, which I'm doing right now, and Night Below begins at first level, and I've combined it with Temple of Elemental Evil, which begins at first level, and I'm fleshing out the area right there, and it is perfect for first level adventures. And like you were talking about, you throw something in. I'm having an invasion of this tribe of wolf-mounted goblins who have they're wolf-riding goblins, and they have fought their way up from the Pomarge, and they're in the Welkwood, and they're being driven. They're making their way into Verbabach, and they're low enough level so that a good first level party isn't going to get slaughtered by them. And so, you know, there is a good, if you follow Night Below, there's a lot of good info, but it's not like really complete. You need to add to it. If you follow Temple of Elemental Evil, it's fantastic, but you have to add to it to get your characters more experience.
Oh, yeah.
So if you combine the two, in fact, if you combine the Super Module Trilogy with Night Below, the first part of Night Below melds with Temple, the second part with the Slavers, and the third part with the Giants. It's there. I find it to be a very good fit with some added information, and you've got a super mega campaign. But at the very least, you can start off with the first level stuff and in Verbabach. And if you want to see, I have two threads, the Night Below conversion and the information about Verbabach thread up on Cannon Fire. You go right to the top of the forums, and it's the World of Greyhawk discussion forum, and you can find it right there. It's you know, just, and then you need the Night Below set and you know, the Temple set to flesh it all out. But
where's Haranshire? That was the question.
Well, okay, Haranshire.
Where are you going to put that near Verbabach?
Well, it's very near to Hamlet, and I've got a map, the
I
little
haven't
map
placed
I've
it,
added.
so that's good. I'm taking notes here. So yeah.
And I've changed the name to Wensleydale.
Wensleydale.
I
there
don't
you
know.
go. Get
Yeah, if you remember that Python cheese, Wensleydale, you know. So you know, there's a way to just little Photoshop onto the Temple. The T1 to 4 map, and I put the little spot there for Wensleydale. But there needs to be what you see here, what they did in the Living Greyhawk campaign. You need to expand, because there has to be any number. I've got a manor that isn't exactly connected, but it's just another thing I did in Southern Verbabach, and it's called Lord Angle something's manor, and it gives an example of a typical manor house that you can throw into all this. So yeah, I've done a lot of work on Verbabach to flesh it out, and so this, what they're doing right here, I'm not, you know, big fan of all the names or that, but I'm very big more on the eastern area here north of Hamlet, and developing lots of small farming villages, anything from like 5 families who have a little thing on a roadway for their own, to I would say something up to Hamlet size. And then other than Verbabach, I only have 3 big towns, and they're just outside Verbabach, because I have mainly Verbabach being a large farming and herding area, and very generally peaceful.
Well, the good thing about this is, I'm going to commend you on this. This is not a bad thing. There are a lot of people who like just to run modules, right?
Yeah.
So publish source modules, and this is a good tie-in. You got Night Below tied in with Hamlet, and tied in with Temple of Evil, and tied in with the G series and everything. So that's cool. So very nicely done, Jason.
But
Absolutely.
like I say, Anna's map here, you're going to look at the Darlene or the Temple map, and it's going to be blank. But really, if I would shift most of the named places into the area that is, like a line north.
Well, this is almost all Living Greyhawk, and it's a lot. This is the most overdone area in Living Greyhawk.
Well,
period.
it's because it's been added to every period from the earliest days of Gygax to Living Greyhawk.
You can eliminate a lot of this stuff in this area. So,
but Verbabank, the Viscounty should be kind of like a big city with lots and lots of peaceful farming area to the east, because they're going to have to feed themselves. And it's also a good area because Greyhawk, the city of Greyhawk, is going to need food. I mean, that big a city is going to be sucking in food. And right at Verbabank is the Velverdiva. And that is a trade route from Ket all the way over to the near Dev and over to Greyhawk. And so I would think that any food that the people of Verbabank made in excess, they could sell easily. And there's a lot of cities around there. So
awesome.
But, so I wouldn't say that's crowded. When we look at things, the problem is scale and the villages. It's just there's probably a lot of village names to fill up the map, but they're just little dots. They're just little dots of things.
So, real quick, I'll finish mine up. There's not a lot of publications for a lot of the areas I play in. A lot of big ones. Selene, okay, not a lot. Now, Tommy John Kelly's Hateful Wars writings are wonderful, and I've really been playing off a lot of that. And he actually put some of the stuff I've done in his Hateful Wars stories. So I linked to Tommy John's there, Selene, and then if we come down here, Altamira's placed there because there's really nothing. There's nothing posted, published about it at all, and that's why it fits perfectly in there. And this whole area, and Anna, this is the map we got to update, but this whole area right here, we're going to be there again during the Saturday night special at the ruins of Wolfmaster Keep, which is Mike Disney's character Scarn area. All developed, not a lot of publications, running all the way through down into here. And there's a lot of publications about the slavers in Kill and Lakos here in the Pomarsh, but mostly this area here, I didn't pay Living Greyhawk any attention because, in 1980 there wasn't that stuff. So just note, my main areas of play don't have a lot of publications outside the glossographies, which is cool. So, but that's it. Find a place that interests you. Yeah. Do some research. Ask questions of people. Go on the Discords. Ask questions. Reach out to me. Reach out to Jason. Reach out to Anna. Reach out to Rich. Reach out to Dale. Reach out to Gary Julian. Reach out to someone and just say, "Hey, I'm thinking about playing here."
Come on the show and ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions on the shows. On Living Legends of Lore here, and we'll help you out as much as possible getting your game started, and just have fun with it. And little bits, as Sparky said, little bits at a time, and that's the great thing. And just note, this is only part 2. So you're going to see part 3 about this discussion, Gabbin, next week, where we're going to talk about on campaign development, organizations that are in Greyhawk, and some politics. So, just wanted to note. Hopefully, you've enjoyed these first 2 weeks. As we look at that, we went over 2 hours already. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, Jason and me, we went into a side tangent, so then you get like pre-warned of what you can experience.
Yes, exactly.
Next episode when Jason and me go down the rabbit holes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Sparky, thank you. It's very kind of you and very nice of you to say it's been the most welcoming, helpful community I've ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's everyone. Great. So. That's it, Valmoku. You can read one small blurb about an area and come up with years of adventures. And I did that with Varnafane in the From the Ashes box set. And now they found 4 of those axes. There's still 2 out there. So that's 25 years of a story arc that I've worked on from a paragraph in one publication. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk quickly about what's coming up. Jason, what's going on?
All right. Well, last week I mentioned my main project is reading the Gord novels. I do them now 6 days a week, every day but Tuesday for an hour from 6 to 7 on the Cannon Fire Discord. They're also archived on the Cannon Fire website. You can listen to them or download them. And there's a lot of work left to be done with that. But since I talked with you guys last week, there were certain projects that I'd been, just thinking about. So one project is that I've working on is the castle project. I love, pictures of castles. So I've been going through, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. So for the first one, I put up a picture of a very famous castle, the Crac de Chevalier, out in Syria. It was a Crusader castle, and this was an incredibly tough nut to crack. So I put it up, and we talked a little bit about where we should place it, because this isn't going after the named castles. This was just adding some pictures of castles, see where they fit. So we had a couple of places, and we decided on northern Paranland. And if you ever get a chance, look up the Crac de Chevalier. It's an incredible place. And then thinking of Paranland, one of the people put up Castle Falkenstein. And Castle Falkenstein is actually described in a story called Otto of the Silver Hand. And it's, it's a very odd looking castle. And so we dumped that in Paranland too. But so anyway, the other project is there are, we're looking, we haven't talked about Rich's work on the postcards and all the different things we've done, and those are incredible.
They're coming.
To find locations. But of course, we can't cover every city, town. Everything isn't mapped. So I decided there is a town and city generator, computerized online, from somebody called Whataboo, and he, it's very just about Fate of Istis level, a little bit better. And so I'm working on every unmapped location to add maps for them. Now I've finished in the last week, I'm halfway through B, I've finished the A's. So I've had to skip a few from IVID because I've got to dig out my IVID, and I never indexed that one properly because my copy back 20 years ago wasn't numbered. So there was no way except a name drop, just it's in IVID, but I don't know where. So anyway, the Castle project, it's the Castle, Town, and Village project up on Cannon Fire website. And you can go there and start looking at these computer-generated maps. And if you're looking for anything, I just finished up some stuff from WGM1, but any city up to like BEL, town, city, or town, city, or village I've done. And hopefully it won't take that long to finish. And then we'll have something to refer to. If there's nothing, you can go look this up. It's semi-decent. It's a computer-generated map, so free. You get what you pay for. But at least it'll give you an idea. It's maybe I hate this, I'd want to do something different, or hey, it's good enough, So hopefully within a couple weeks, I'll have finished that project and have have a crude map for every single city, village, and town in that I have in my index. So several hundred.
Awesome, Jason. Thank you. I really appreciate you cutting short your reading tonight. That was awesome. Thank you for the great participation, and I'm looking forward to what you got up for next week's too, and finishing up this topic. I think this is going very, the last 2 weeks have been fantastic.
I'm always honored to be on here, and it's great. I love talking to you and Anna.
And you don't disconnect anymore.
Exactly. It's been no disconnection, no connection issues. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's the new laptop.
So. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, Anna, what's going on?
Oh, it's a lot of things. First of all, I'm sorry I've been kind of away from forums and Facebook and stuff like that, and that's because I have the last like 10 days before the deadline for Griffin Lore Commission, so I'm trying to wrap that up And so that is taking the majority of time the past week and this week and probably the coming week too, and then hopefully they will go back to normal. But what's on the agenda for Greyhawk, there will be a map stream next week too, on Friday. I plan to at least do Friday, and we will see if there will be a continuation on working on the 21 update. That is probably, but there might be something else that I want to do instead. Well, it depends a little bit on what I've been doing the previous days, but it will be something Greyhawk on mapping live stream on Friday at 6. And then also one of the big things, let me drop the link in here, and that is my Greyhawk repository that has gotten a new home. I bet because my website is kind of so and so, and Dropbox works so and so, and it to distribute my maps and stuff. So I'm testing out using Notion, and I've got some good feedback from some of my patrons who have been testing it a few weeks. So I've added a whole bunch of stuff into that repository with some text and links and examples and stuff, and it's visual, searchable, indexed, and so on. There's various different editions. There are back versions of previous versions of the map that have been hiding on various hard drives and backups for some years. I put it back in there. There's the latest Earth model and stuff. So, and more is coming. So I've been adding a little bit of stuff there every day to that one. So it's now the most complete set available online of all my maps, I think. And there's even a Meyerhawk section where I put stuff that are my campaign stuff, so to speak. Cool. It's all in one database. You can actually go and search all of it by name, and you can look at different tags and stuff. And I'm going to see if I'm going to add more versions. You can search for each country to see what all the maps and heraldry and stuff that are from that realm, so to speak. That is coming there too, because that's one of the cool things you can do in Notion. It's very easy to build various versions of the same database that ties back to the same content. So it's kind of cool. I will add my blog posts, and a whole bunch of other stuff will come there too. So that is that will hopefully be a much easier way to find my stuff and to poke around and actually be able to see and serve. So please check out some of the heavy files that are the big files that are a couple of gigabytes in size. I've downloaded them. It worked for me, but I want to make sure that it works for others too. So that is the big thing happening. But also I'm working on my hot Earth model that my patrons got a couple of weeks ago, got the cold Earth model. And that was some good feedback when what is an ice age Earth look like. Now I'm digging into making a hot Earth model, what it looks like when the climate goes bonkers and goes really hot, so to speak, and the polar ice caps melt and the oceans are hundreds of feet higher up than it is in our normal 576, 598 that we're used to. And the ice age is the other way around, because Earth has such more land area, especially around the poles, than Earth has. That means that when more ice builds up, the oceans actually sink more significantly than they would do on Earth. And that is where you find a lot of, and the cool thing is it ties in with some of the legends, because the legends talk about lands east of the Flannies that used to be settled and stuff, and that's exactly what would happen. That in my cold Earth model, even the Lindor Isles and the Spindrift Isles and stuff becomes part of mainland, and Hepmona Land and Flannies are actually connected, and the Olman Isles are a land bridge. So the Olmans, there's a reason that Olmans from Amedio all the way down into Hepmona, because during the Ice Age, that was perfect kind of Mediterranean climate, wonderful, good area to be in, so to speak. So a lot of, I try to make models of Earth here that ties into the stories and explain the stories. The same thing with hot Earth. And today, thanks to Jason and Jay, we got a good connection into the cairns. And I'm also, when we have migrations in Legends and Lore, I'm going to tie into the cold and hot Earth models too, because there are some interesting possibilities that you can play with there too. So that, and I'm also wrapping up the 21 version of the the map and the atlas, and the 598 map will get some love there again too. So
Awesome.
yeah, so there's a lot, but right now it's kind of a little bit empty for the next coming 10 days or so, but then it will be full force for the rest of the year. So I have no other commission plans.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see it, the vid's up for the fantasy mapping show that was on Friday night. It was awesome.
Oh
So,
yeah, hopefully it wasn't too technical and too deep into it, but yeah.
It was really a good one. So
Thank you.
what's up for content coming up this week? Wednesday night we do migrations, and that'll be in Greyhawk, and that special guest David Leonard will be joining Anna, Mike, Greyhawk Mike, and myself for that discussion. So that'll be a neat one. That'll kick off the week. I got another week for me with having 4 streams, but this, but not instead of Friday, it'll be Saturday. So that is on Wednesday. On Thursday, we finish up to sweep and clear, which it ties into what's going to happen on Saturday, kind of, and that's the biggest giveaway of the that we have every quarter. Miniature Building Authority gives away a $75 and a $25 gift certificate to their store. So that is the big one that we usually do once a quarter for Miniature Building Authority, and that's this upcoming Thursday. Then Saturday night is the big, and it sounds like Kayla is now being able to play. Tamler's wife just was discording me saying she is not working that Saturday night that she normally was, and so she may be joining this group. We have 2 brand new players that have never played in my campaign before joining us, and that is the sculptor Christine Van Patten and her husband Kyle are going to be joining this group for this game. So I'm looking forward to that. And we got Mike Disney, we got Tea Time with Taryn, we have Cassandra DeMonte Hall, and it sounds like we'll have Kayla and Anna as well. So it'll be a fun Saturday night special, 6 p.m. next Saturday. And then what are we doing for Gabbin next week? Let me see if I have the right one. Yes, Gabbin 163, Organization and Politics. All right, and we'll discuss that. We'll do this. Will be the 3rd one in how to develop a Greyhawk campaign. We'll talk about some ideas. I'm going to be heavy on guilds. I'm going to be heavy on those kind of organizations, knighthoods and guilds. That'll be my specialty, and we'll see where Anna and Jason goes.
I'll dive into politics, definitely, and some evil cult politics, and Jason and me, we can dive into flan and other interesting politics and deviltry and whatnot, Nerul, Orcus, and other stuff. So
all sorts of wonderful things. I love the Knights of the Watch too. And then the Sunday after that will be the Sunday before Virtual Greyhawk Con, and that will be and I don't know who the guests are yet, so I just put Tim up there because Tim's a filler. So Virtual Greyhawk Con 2 Prelude will be Sunday, September 26th. That's the Sunday before Virtual Greyhawk Con that weekend. So that's normally when I do it on that Gabbin show. We'll have some special guests on here. May I have some of the DMs that are DMing and some events, and that'll be the Sunday before. So we got a lot going on, lots of great things going on. And if you haven't signed up yet, I'm going to click that link. Please check it out. Sign up. It's $5. Just covers some general costs. There's a ton of games open still. There's a lot of games that need players. Particularly, I know that Armin, he's on New Zealand. I know it's late night, but those late night games are important. If you can't sleep and you're in the U.S., they start at like midnight Eastern time. But if you're European or you're from New Zealand or Australia, they're perfect for you. Also, Tom Oranier's game that Saturday morning needs some fills. Casey's Bandit Kingdom tourneys are only 1.5 filled. So so we got to get them filled too. There's a lot of great things. Note the Grand Mealy. Here we go. Bill and Master Crafter. I was at his house last night. Tim, Bill, myself, and our families were all hanging out, drinking and eating mussels. It's coming. It's coming along.
It looks so
all right.
Cool.
The arena for the Grand Mealy is coming. He's working on it, and it'll be done within 2 weeks. So yes, that's the only picture I have of it. So note, yes. This is good. This piece, you thought the joust was nice looking. The detail on this is unbelievable when you get up close. Infinite Dimensions Games, one of our sponsors, wonderful. If you've seen the Prelude ad I do for them, that's the arena. It's going to look way better than the arena in those pictures. So yes, it's being 20 competitors, 20 in this tournament. looking forward to it. We're gonna have a fun time. So just wanted to share that with you. And one last thing, you're gonna see this thing on the left. You're gonna see that on during the Saturday night special too. But it's not just that building. Wait till you see what it is. It's really a fantastic building. This is from Gamescape 3D. A lot of the dungeon dressing that's all done there too. You're gonna see some of that too coming up. So just wanted to share some things with you. And let's do the giveaways, and then we're gonna raid tonight. I think we're gonna raid into 20 sides every story tonight because they're doing Ghost of Saltmarsh. All right, so they're doing a Greyhawk game. So is there a built-in oyster and mussels bar? The Blue Oyster bar is nowhere to be found, Jim Segui, if you get that Police Academy joke. So there's going to be stuff. Bill's working on some things. So he's got some really cool stands, for markets. So, yep. Are you not entertained? Exactly. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to be entertained because it's going to be awesome. Cannot wait for it. Going to be a fantastic thing. All right, last call. Anyone wants to sign up? I'll give you 10 seconds. Exclamation drawing. Kumquat smoothies, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get there. So, Beacon, I think you're already in if it didn't show. All right. So, you get your choice of one of these 4. I have duplicates of both of these, so you can, I can do the same one twice if you want. All right. I'm going to close this out. Drum roll. And thank you for the support. Thank you for that wonderful hype train early on. Thank you for all the subs.
Ranger Harley got in the last second.
You got in. Look at that. Zippity doo dah. Let me hit the right buttons here. Always want to make sure that I don't at the end crash this up. And closing it out. Here we go. First winner. Cardman 2467.
Oh.
Is the Cardman on?
I can't remember seeing Cardman.
He came on. He's on. I said
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
Which one do you want, Cardman? I know. I'm almost positive of your address. Throw me your first name again, Cardman. Just let me know, man. I can't. I try to remember everyone. Cardman, let me know which one of these 4. Okay. And the second winner is Julie Cat, a first-time winner. There you go.
Oh,
Julie
cool.
Cat. The red one. You want Casey's book, Bandit Kingdoms. Nice, Cardman. Awesome. Awesome. Julie Cat, which one of the 4 would you like? You can have, we got the original Glossography. It's a reprint. Greyhawk the Adventure Begins reprint. Treasures of Greyhawk reprint. If you want Adventures, Treasures of Greyhawk's the one to get. And the Bandit Kingdom Summary, which is not a reprint. So you just let me know. Okay? One of these 4, and I will ship it to you. I'll need your name and address, and I will express mail it, and we're good to go on that. So wonderful. Just get with me and whisper, and let me know which one you want. And let's raid into. Let's do a nice big raid into our friends over at 20 Sides, as they're doing something nice tonight. So okay, thanks for another great show. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Things are rolling along
Thank
real
you,
well,
everyone.
and I really appreciate it. And the goal here is to just keep the community growing. Thank you for all the new faces we've seen in the last 3 weeks since I came back on vacation. It's wonderful. Note that John at Blue Box has a really huge game, brand new game. I think he's under the weather, but starting on Tuesday, he starts with some new characters, and he's giving away, I believe. Don't quote me on this, but I think he's giving away one of these originals.
Yes,
on Tuesday.
Yep.
All right. So just note that. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
So okay. Name and address, please. There you go. All right. We're gonna go and raid in. See you all. See you Wednesday in a couple nights. All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Anna.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks.
Let's hit this right button here. Awesome. Alex, I think that's tough due to time, because he's in Belgium. It's 7-hour difference. I think it's going to be tough for him to get in on that discussion. I think that would be almost impossible. But you never know. I'd love to see us going with 75 to 80 viewers into this.
That's right.
We're getting close. 67's good. We got 69. Awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you Wednesday night. Sure worked.
It popped over.